Happy Saturday. Happy midway point of the weekend. Hopefully, the weekend just stays that way and doesn't end. Today is June 24th, 2023. We have yet to hit 100 degrees here in Las Vegas, and I'm so happy because that means we're a third of the way through and I haven't broiled to death. So that's always good. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center Live, the Saturday overnight edition, coming from you to you from Las Vegas, from the Sci-Fi Center itself, courtesy of the Poindexter Lounge and the Sci-Fi Center Zone YouTube page. Please like and subscribe both, whichever one you're watching on now. Watch them on both if you have that capability. If you're on the Poindexter Lounge, like and subscribe. If you're watching from, or head over to youtube.com/at the Sci-Fi Center and like and subscribe there. So by the age of 78, I can reach 1,000 subscribers. Been a wild week. Of just absolutely absurd nonsense and some really cool stuff. Warner Brothers Discovery has made for a very weird week and a whole lot of conversation. The Flash's numbers continue to be part of that conversation, even though those numbers have very little to do with the actual movie itself and more to do with bullshit than anything. And it also has a lot to do with some of the business decisions that they've made since acquiring Warner Brothers and merging with Discovery. They're a huge improvement from what we had before. Obviously, those guys were a nightmare. These guys are better, but they've made some key mistakes, and it's costing them now. For whatever you want to say about The Flash, I've heard several things of why the movie isn't doing well. Most of them are garbage. I've heard, and keep in mind, we promoted this movie. We talk face to face, and not just with geeks like myself, average moviegoers, because we target average moviegoers when we send people to these movies. A lot of these things, Ezra Miller, CGI, all these things may have played a part of it, but not on the levels that would have caused it to do this, and not from the response that we were getting. Most of the people that I talked to knew who Ezra Miller was because he was the star of the movie. They weren't diving into all the other stuff. The CGI, I saw the movie twice, and maybe because I'm an old school practical effects person, the CGI didn't bother me, and it really didn't play much of a factor in the in-person response that I got when I was talking to people on their way out of both screenings that I went to. Where I heard that as being an issue, and a lot of the other stuff being an issue, is on the internet. And even though I'm using this platform, the internet, it's not always the best place to bounce opinions off. Most of the time, you're bouncing stupid shit off of your boneheaded buddies who are saying the same stupid shit to you. And it's like a ping pong. If there's no one in the circle with any common sense, it just gets louder and louder, and the nonsense builds momentum. And that's what I think has been happening, not just with The Flash, but movies in general. Seemed like we're on some type of mission to really drop our pants and shit on a movie before it even gets released and during its release and everything else. And it's like I said, this is not exclusive to The Flash. This is what's made movie talk kind of, not fun. The experience of going to see these movies in a way has been ruined because you have people who basically sit with their eyeballs pressed up to the screen looking for something wrong. They're looking harder for something to be wrong than being entertained. And I don't think that's helpful. I don't think that's helpful for the hard work people put into these movies. Listen, every movie's going to have its issues, but the culture of taking out your shovel, waiting for something to arrive, and just laying in wait to dig up something, it's kind of crappy. Why even waste your time? So, looking at The Flash, most of what would hurt The Flash if you asked the average person sitting next to somebody in the A theater weren't those issues. Now, the biggest issue, and this is what I'm going to go into, is that more people knew about the resetting of DC films than knew or cared about Ezra's issues, or that we're going to sit and analyze how great the CGI was on with a baby falling at super speed. The majority of the people we polled, the majority of people I've ran into, either in some way, shape, or form, knew about the incoming Superman and that, Cavill and all that. They knew they were able to piece enough of it together. Not necessarily in the great detail that we on YouTube sit and talk to each other about, but they knew enough to know that a lot of these things that they're saying were not going anywhere. And then you'll have the people who say, well, does it need to be part of a franchise to be a great movie? Yeah. If you sold your audience on a franchise, I'm not here to just see one great movie. You can keep that for your streaming service. If you sold me on a franchise and the movies that you are presenting to me are a part of a franchise and you hint that that franchise is over, you can't then turn and look at somebody and say, well, what, The Godfather was part of a franchise when it was made great? No. Francis Coppola, the general public didn't know that there may be a Godfather 2 coming out or a Godfather 3, 20 years later. It was sold to you as a singular movie, and that's it. The modern day comic book movie is sold as a franchise. Even these smaller ones like the Batman is sold, and you basically knew that was going to be a trilogy based on even the Nolan trilogy. Will it be a connected universe? Not necessarily, but there's going to be more than one because that's how retail works. When you sell someone something and they like it, you continue to sell them that until the trend of them liking it changes. So Warner Brothers' new regime, James Gunn, Peter Safran, came in excited about their future, but at the same time, they're asking you to spend money now. That's a tough ask. In order for them to have done that, they would have needed to make these movies mean something, not only within themselves, but to whatever you're thinking about doing that. Now, what they should have done, in my opinion, they shouldn't have hired a DC studio head until they had all this settled. They focused on moving past what they inherited when the fans couldn't. Unless you were going to give these movies away for free and pay for somebody's movie, you're asking someone to pull money out of their pocket for things that you have moved on from. And that's not fair. Now, if they could get into a TARDIS and go back in time to right around when Black Adam was either being shot or released before they dumped $60 million in needless money on it, here's how I would have done it. Here's how I would have addressed the end of the current iteration of the DC universe. And it's in the thumbnail. And it's been brought up many times before. I'm not the first one. Kingdome Come. Once you had any inclination that you were nearing the end of what you were doing and you were in search of someone else, no matter who it was, and you know that eventually you were going to hand that over to someone else who would be entitled to have their own ideas, whether it be partially or wholly, you should have come up with a way to put a bow on this. Now, would I have loved the conclusion to the Dark Side arc? Yeah. But at this point, given the situation that you have, the best way to do it would have been to make an event level movie. Now, step one would have been to not move Aquaman to your final movie. The Flash should have still remained that final movie, and then the Kingdome Come movie should have happened. Another thing that should have been put on the burner is setting dates and release dates in 2025 and 2026 and 2027 for your new slate. You need to handle business now to firm the ground that new slate will stand on. Otherwise, you jeopardize not only the current movies, as we are seeing this now, but you jeopardize your credibility going into whatever you're thinking about doing. So the focus should have been on what we have now. How can we resolve what we have now and then head on into what we're going to do? Because you hear me say this a bunch of times, and I should have it scrolling at the bottom of our screen. Wrecked runways lead to crash planes. No matter what fanboy on a screen, anywhere, A comic book store tells you we should just do this, we should just do that. You just can't unimagine the things that are already there. And you just can't dismiss that there are a significant amount of people who enjoyed those things. And there are a significant amount of people who are watching you do this. And those are the people that you're going to ask for brand new money while they watch you pretty much flush the money they spent down the drain. So Kingdome Come should have been the first thing. Here's how I would have done it. And more literate people, writers, directors, screenwriters can fill in the blanks. I would replace Magog with Black Adam. Now, if you watch Black Adam, there's a certain part of the story where Black Adam's way of doing things is in favor of the people of the town and the country that he is in and he is saving. And if you've read Kingdome Come, you'll see that Magog and the superheroes of that era are in the same situation. Superman, Wonder Woman, all the old heroes have pretty much moved on because the general public prefers the ways that the newer, more violent superheroes are handling things. They don't just lock people up. They get rid of the threat outright. And if you saw Black Adam, you saw Black Adam kill. You saw how he handled things, and you know how Superman handles things. So there's a conflict right there. So I would have done a Kingdome Come movie and replaced Magog with him. He would have been the protagonist. We could have moved way into the future, far enough into the future to where it's the same relevance time skip that Kingdome Come was. This movie would have given you a platform to put everybody that you've used in the DCEU up to this point. And the reason why you do that is because it provides an event level movie with all the main characters that draw money, for one. Two, it would have given you something to look at other than the disappointing endings that it looks like each of these characters are going to have. It would have given you a platform to send Henry Cavill out with a bang. Gal Gadot, MILF Magnet, Momoa, everybody you've featured, Shazam, you could even have Shazam in there. Now, my story would be, it would have taken these last movies that you've done, the last movies that were on the slate, and I would have built up an end game, and pun not intended, a Kingdome Come movie. Each of these movies would have had something, even though they were mostly already filmed. They made decisions at the end of some of these movies to remove cameos and add things to them. So you could have added things. I would have had, this is where I would have introduced the Spectre. I would have had end credit scenes going from Black Adam all the way through, even Blue Beetle, with the Spectre basically leading up to what Kingdome Come would be. And you have all these characters in there. You have some characters you haven't seen, but just like you did in Kingdome Come series, if you haven't read Kingdome Come, it's one of the great miniseries of all time. You have to read it. And it would have served as a fitting ending, a single movie that would have signified closure to everything that has happened up to this point. So instead of having this sloppy product that was unfulfilled at every angle you looked at, you have one epic event that is, its purpose is to put it into it. And if you've read Kingdome Come, you understand how that story, spoiler alert, it's almost 30-year-old graphic novel series. But my story would have had Black Adam as a protagonist. I would have had the villains that we've had. I would have had Lex Luthor. I would have had, all the ones that we've had and some of the ones that we haven't had. They're only going to be around for this movie. But it's a one big movie that has them all in it. And they're fighting it out. Shazam. I would have had Shazam in it. That would have made Shazam's last appearance that you saw him for relevant. Now, if you watch both Shazam movies, Mr. Mind is in both of them. He cameos at the end of one and he cameos at the end of the other. Now, if we never get another a Shazam movie, his cameos were useless. If you've seen Kingdome Come, you'll see that there is a worm-like creature that they never say is Mr. Mind, but it's based on the premise of that type of character that takes control of Shazam. So I would have had Shazam in there. Now, I've already said that Black Adam and Superman, that would be the main story arc going against each other. That gives you your battle between two characters that I really, really, really wanted to see fight. But who does Shazam fight once he's taken over? Guess what? You knew coming into this situation that you had another Kryptonian that you could work with. I have him fighting Sasha Calle's Supergirl. I haven't seen anybody who didn't want to see more of her. And you should have built up each of these movies. Blue Beetle. Now, what I would have done with Blue Beetle, because now he pretty much told us that Blue Beetle is the first character in his universe. I have the Spectre take Blue Beetle and have him replace Norman McRae. Now we're seeing the Kingdom Come ending through Blue Beetle, who is the only one of these characters, more than likely, that will carry over into what Gunn is doing. And at the end of Kingdom Come, there's an atomic bomb that kills a lot of people, including Shazam. You can rewrite whatever ending you want with that. You can have The Rock go out with a blast. You can have Shazam go out with a blast. But everything you do headed towards this one movie, these last 4 movies you have, is leading up to this. And you're working with James Gunn, who just came into the room, pulled out a chair. You're coordinating with him so that he shapes what he needs for this to catapult us into what he's doing. Had they had done that, all these movies would have meant something. They would have meant something, and they wouldn't be easily discardable. Because right now with HBO Max, or Max, by the way, that's a whole nother stream of nonsense. Why did you take HBO out? But with Max, you're talking about money now. You've given me a reason to say, you know what? I've just made this choice easier. I'm going to go ahead and wait for this to come on HBO Max in 30 days. And in today's economy, where I've always said over and over again, all this money that you spend just taking a family of 4 to the movie theaters, you might have 2 really good movies that you want to see. One of them may have to hit the cutting board and wait for streaming because of financial reasons. Now you've added the fact that your movie isn't going anywhere. You just made it easier for them, a family or somebody, the bill payer, to say, we'll see you in 30 days on VOD or worse. That's not good. The priority was the reboot. But the priority should have been the now. What is happening now? You had your eyes on the mirage in the desert with the palm trees and the waterfall and everything else, and you forgot that there was a whole lot of sand and desert you had to get to even get to that. And what state are you going to be in once you even get there? We're talking 2025. Superman Legacy, I like I said, unless something happens with this strike that makes up for a lot of time, we're talking originally, July or September of 2025? The strike has been going on for 3 months. Any work, and they would have to fast track and jury rig stuff to make it out in 2025. So now we're talking 2026 sometime then. How am I getting excited for something 2-3 years down the line enough to the point where I'm going to go spend money on something you have clearly given up on? Now, a lot of the people will say, well, why would they spend that kind of money? Well, it would cost too much money. It wouldn't be worth it. Warner Brothers Discovery, by the time it's done, is going to spend $1.2 billion on marketing. That's on top of the money they're going to lose on production costs on some of these movies. $1.2 billion with a B. High end, even if you do the fanboy exaggerations of budgets that we all do. Let's say Kingdom Come cost you $500 million. It's not going to cost you $500 million, but it's probably going to be a $250 max. But okay, let's benefit of the doubt. Let's give the naysayers an extra $250 million to play with. That's I'm not a mathematician, but 500 million is far less than 1.2 billion that you're not going to get any mileage out of. So now you've augmented the remaining movies that you have, including Blue Beetle, Aquaman, all these things. You use these end credits to make this part of one big gigantic event. And you market it that way. The door is closing on this new universe. Another one is opening. You get people in the same breath that you're closing this door, you're getting people excited about this new thing. Instead of just waiting around, flipping a coin to see some movies that, for the most part, may not be going anywhere. And if they are, you haven't done a really good job in communicating it to your general public. Because trust me, that was the main feedback that I got from people we sent, is that I'll just watch it on streaming, and but I didn't really get the excitement about 2025 either. So it's a self-inflicted wound. And really good movies. And The Flash isn't a perfect movie. It isn't the greatest superhero movie of all time, but it was good enough to make more than it did. I've seen some pretty trashy movies in the last 3 or 4 years that made a lot more money because they were put in better situations. And see, next time somebody tells you they really just need to focus on making a great movie, you go tell them to go jump into a wall until that makes any more sense than that. Bang their head into a wall, and that makes just about as much sense as what they just told you. There have been plenty of good movies that have gotten torn apart by circumstance, lost money because of circumstance. But I can give you 4 or 5 movies that just been released in the last 2 years that were horrid movies that made a lot of money because of the situations that they were in, the momentum that they had. So the autopsy on the Flash doesn't even start with the dead body of the Flash. It starts with the people that killed it to begin with. That's prior management. Those guys were a circus. The same people who were making the decisions that got us here were going to greenlight the Wonder Twins. Let that sink in for you. We were going to get Gleek the monkey before we got another Superman movie. We were going to hear Wonder Twin powers activated before I ever heard anything from a Ben Affleck Batman again. Now we have the new guys. And as much of an improvement as they are, there's still an old Hollywood mentality that is pervasive, that, like I said, it's where we are now. They made decisions with the Flash as far as cameos and endings and things that affected the Flash. They were the ones that announced a new beginning with no plan on how to handle or how to communicate what the now is. But we want your money now. Want you to go out and spend $14. Want you to go to IMAX. Want you to buy that $10 of popcorn, $7 soda, candy, times 2, times 3. If you want to have a good time, they want you to spend that money now. But they got their eyes set on 2025, 2026, 2027. And I always tell you, math is undefeated. And it didn't lose here. Math beats stupidity every day of the week. It is not me. It's not me. Plenty of people saw the Flash, thought it was fun. But we're not just talking about a Flash thing. Shazam was a good movie. Both Shazams were great movies. They suffered. Blue Beetle could suffer. Blue Beetle's more of an outlier. Blue Beetle has a chance, and they didn't spend a lot of money on Blue Beetle, so I don't think Blue Beetle can fail in that manner. Aquaman spent a lot of money on Aquaman. Spent a lot of time on Aquaman. And whether Aquaman's a good movie or not, Aquaman is going to pay the price for nobody having a plan to resolve the now. As soon as we got new people, and as soon as we got the word that Superman Henry Cavill Superman was going to be replaced with something else. That was it. And how that was communicated was disastrous. That immediately gave birth to the reboot monster. And if you watched any stream I've been on, and unless it's your first time here, you know what I think about reboots. If stupid and lazy fucked, reboot would be the resulting child. That's how I feel about reboots. And it's not, in my opinion, an unfounded opinion. Look what we're going through now with these movies. Look what we're going to go through now with these movies. Transition is important. Credibility is important. Warner Brothers Discovery and the current DC doesn't have the credibility to start over again. It's like that. Like I said, you keep taking your car to a mechanic who keeps screwing things up. Yeah, the car runs for a little bit, but every time you take it out, there's a different problem. And it's almost like he's wanting you to come back to spend more money. How many times are you going to keep coming back to him? His credibility is suspect. Your money is real. So that's where we're at with the wonderful world of DC. There are other things that we got to get through once we bring in the wingmen, as far as selling stuff, selling musical rights to other companies, entering deals with Netflix to sell licensed shows. That's one thing I find hilarious, because back when the whole, sell Snyder stuff to Netflix came out, I did streams on how business-wise it could work. But so many people basically just wanted to shoot everything down. Everybody would say it was never a possibility. No one could ever give you a business reason. I heard some of the dumbest, inane stuff. Or why they would never do that. Why would they compete with themselves? Why would they do this? Why would they do that? I never heard anybody pull up a chart or pull up an agreement or explain to me if they knew what a limited license agreement was or a non-exclusive license agreement. No one would ever say that. They just listened to the dummy to the left of them and the dummy to the right of them, and they repeated it. I don't need the internet for that. I can go out on the street and get a bunch of winos and we can repeat everything we say to each other. No one ever gave a legit business reason that you couldn't do that. Now, I'm not saying that would happen, because it still takes the sheer will to do it. But now here we are months later with something that's a lot closer to HBO selling licensed content non-exclusively to other streaming services than we were when we were talking about this. And a lot of the reasons why they're doing it are the same reasons why people who were thinking about this stuff and logistical terminology said they could do it and how it could be done. Whether it was ever going to happen was nil, or was a slim, some possibility. But the mechanics of something like that were there. But the discourse around that was some of the dumb, and by people I have respect for and I know are smarter than the conversation that they were carrying. But now here we are. And with Warner Brothers Discovery, they were always going to sell stuff off. AT&T was trying to do this. AT&T was trying to sell the music division. The music division right now, sound scores and all that, it's just not moving right now. And in the way that we intake entertainment, it's a liability. So I knew they were going to get rid of that. But like I said, when you roll things out the way they've rolled things out, it just looks like a perfect storm, when all it really is business. So I digress. Let me bring in Thade, who thankfully is on Avatar, and then Brad. I'm pretty sure I'll hear some strange sounds in the background. Sounds like the UFO taking off back there.
What's up?
Yeah, what's up, man?
How you doing, Brad?
Very good. How guys? How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm an idiot. I'm an absolute buffoon. And is anything that I just laid out beyond possibility of things that could have happened?
Yeah. Hell of a week we've had, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where to start? I think I think what you were saying about really the good place to start is what you were saying about these four movies, these four DC movies we have coming up. That really are, falling victim to, what the reboot, the relaunch, however you want to call it, of the DCU under DC Studios, and the idea that the perception, rightly so, I think that this is not a finale; they're just being cut off. I mean, and once you've communicated that, you really have robbed these movies of a lot of the momentum they have, and they do deserve to be doing better. I mean, Shazam! Fury of the Gods deserved way better. The Flash damn sure deserves better. And I'm really despairing for Blue Beetle and Aquaman: Lost Kingdom. I think Aquaman has much more of a fighting chance than Blue Beetle, just because the first movie and the recognizability of the character and Jason Momoa, Blue Beetle, and especially with what Gunn has said about him being kind of like the inaugural character in his universe, that's really going to be tough with the kind of the circumstances they're rolling into with it. So, I mean, everything you introduced with, I mean, I really I got no dispute to it.
Yeah. Like I said, you're not going to see my name on any alumni list of NASA. You're not going to see me and standing next to any Nobel laureate. You're not going to see me as the expert on atmospherical pressure or anything like. You're not going to see me any of those places. You're going to see me in a place like this. And yet, I got people that have all this at their disposal, have everything at their disposal to make better decisions, and they don't. And like I said, I excuse us fanboys because that's our job, is to say stupid stuff because there's no consequences. If I say something stupid on YouTube, I just look stupid on YouTube.
Yeah.
But there's not hundreds of millions of dollars at my fingertips.
Well, and especially because of how heavily, I mean, with the the incoming Gunn and Stafford administration of DC Studios, and with David Zaslav, and with the new regime of Warner Brothers, I mean, they were very, very clearly behind the Flash as much as they possibly could have been. They were pushing it like crazy. I mean, what it's going through right now, I mean, it's not from lack of trying, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And you really have to think about the fact. I mean, I just can't imagine there's not significant consternation in the studio right now about what has caused this very unfortunate downturn for the Flash, which deserves to be doing so much better than it is.
I doubt they're watching this show. If they are, hey Dave, how you doing? Hey Jims. Hi. It's all a genesis of listening to people who just don't seem to be mentally invested into some of these things. The consequences of terminology and decisions are huge. Like I always say, I think I have as much term for the word reboot as I do a used condom, and I think the word reboot has as much value as a condom, because it's a flare. You're shooting up a flare, a warning saying, "Don't come over here. Don't come over here because there's nothing over here for you to see." Now, what the Kingdome Come solution would do is it would be something to point to and said, "We gave you a beginning. There is your end." That is so important. The one key thing about what Marvel has done, even though a good half of their movies, I wish I could unsee. But what they've done for their fans is they've given them a through line to what they started with and where they are at now. Like I said last week, did you want more of Tony Stark as Iron Man, and did you want more Chris Evans as Captain America? Sure, I could have taken more, but you got enough.
Well, I mean, Tony, he went out a blaze of glory. I mean, I'm like, go out on that high note, man.
You got the ending. You got the ending. Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow. Could you have done more with her? Yeah, but you did enough. See, you didn't get up from the marble table starving, wondering, where did my meal go? It never made it to the table. I only got the hors d'oeuvres. I only got the nachos. I didn't get anything else. With these characters, you're always going to be able to say, well, what the hell? And you want more money? You're like a degenerate gambler who I just gave $100 to. You went right and played all bad hands, and now you're coming back. I already know you suck at poker, but you want another 100?
But, well, it definitely does seem like DC's economic freebasing at this point.
Well, WB certainly is.
That's what I'm saying. I meant WB. I said DC, but I meant WB. It seems like they're economically freebasing at this point. Like,
But James Gunn, and I think James Gunn's a genius. Let's get that
I
out of the
think
way right
James
there.
Gunn. I think James Gunn has a chance to make something good with DC, but does it really matter in the long run now? Because again, like we said last week, WB's been shafting DC for 30 years.
Definitely 10.
It's like the company doesn't know what to do with something. They'll give you little drips and drabs, like you said. You get the hors d'oeuvre, you get the appetizer, but where's the main meal? Like, I mean, there's been certain movies that I've liked, but then like I didn't get enough of that, and then they hop to something new. It's my same argument that I've had the whole time. They keep
What?
monkey branching to different things, and I never get a completion of what I was into.
Yeah, and if I
And-
hear one more time that, look, the Flash's numbers proves that we need a reboot, I thought the world was a smarter place.
No, what
I
screwed Flash, in my opinion,
was the announcement of the reboot.
I gave
that
mankind,
was one thing. That was one thing.
hold on. I gave my fellow geeks apparently more credit. I thought I was the dumbest one in the room. Still am in most cases. But when I hear someone say something that silly without looking at every molecule that DC has put out since 2017, you sold me on Superman. You gave me Shazam. You sold me on Justice League. You gave me Suicide Squad. How many times can you sell me on the substitute thing until I just don't show up? And can I blame you? Can I blame a fan for constantly being given Plan B when they were sold on Plan A? Go ahead, guys.
What? And
Well,
to go off, go ahead, Dave.
one of my biggest problems here is not only did announcing the reboot hurt the Flash, and it's going to hurt the next two movies. It's just going to. Another big problem with the Flash specifically is they gave away too many free screenings. People went to the free screenings, and with the exception of a few people I know, nobody's actually gone back to pay money. And that's another one of your problems here.
That only amounts up to about 2 million, though. If you do the math, somebody did the math online.
That's still 2 million, William.
Yeah, but you needed, if 2 million was your shortfalling, somebody's getting promoted. They're going to fall short by hundreds of millions. Dude.
Also, with a lot of those free screenings, and I've seen a lot of other people speculate. It's like you had so many of the leaks come out from that, and those just flooded Twitter, and
they were crappy leaks. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I gave my fellow humans, I gave my fellow Homo sapiens too much credit to not say, well, something's shot on somebody's shitty phone at an angle in the back row with somebody's fro in the way, bouncing light off of that. Maybe that might not be the accurate interpretation of what the movie looks like.
The thing about that I don't understand either is, don't they usually confiscate people's phones when they go into these early showings or test showings, things like that?
They didn't for these.
Yeah, I that's a real lapse in security there. I mean, that's just, there's no two ways about that.
But people didn't have enough common sense to be like, wow, that's shot from a crappy phone with bad lighting and everything involved in it. I mean, maybe it might look different when I actually sit my ass down in front of the screen.
And I had a conversation with somebody else the other day about this. This would have, okay, so, a lot of people were, back when Multiverse of Madness came out, people were wanting all these cameos, right? And back when that came out, we were like, you can hold off on some of those cameos. But this movie The Flash would have benefited from a whole lot more cameos than it had. Like, there were they should have brought in some of the CW guys. Michael Rosenbaum said that him and Tom were waiting for a call. They could have come in and done a cameo for Smallville. I mean, if you're bringing in somebody for 5-second cameos, that one scene could have been so much bigger and made a whole lot of the wider DC audience happier.
Yeah.
When of course you have a current Superman on TV now with Tyler Hoechlin, so that's
well,
another
you
one
should
you
have brought
plug
him.
in.
You should have brought him and Bitsy in. You should have brought Tom and Michael in from Smallville. Maybe even Kirsten Krug. Since she was one of the main three for a long time in that show. You should have brought in. You should have gone even as far back as brought in John Wesley Shipp. Okay.
You should have had Grant Gustin. Listen, you
should have
all
had
know
Grant Gustin. You should have
how
had
I feel
that
about
crew.
that Flash and the 18 people that watch it. Everybody wants, why didn't they replace him with Grant Gustin? Because you know what? As much, not a knock against Grant Gustin, but those people on the CW couldn't get people to watch their shows for free. How are you going to get him to be a draw for something you're dropping hundreds? But that's notwithstanding. He should have been in that show. I mean, they set it up. He should have been there. He is a Flash.
They said it. Okay. You may not have seen it, William, but they did cameo during the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, I saw that. That was the best part of that.
I think. Yeah, that's what they mean.
Ezra was in that show. They should have done the same with Grant in this movie.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I was kind of expecting, like a lot of people, I was kind of hoping to see like the other side of that scene, where it's like, because the first one was from Grant's perspective, now this one would be from Ezra's perspective.
I was betting on that. I would have lost money had I had bet on that. I'm like, out of all the cameos, you gave me, spoiler alert, you gave me that ridiculous looking version of Superman that was Nicolas Cage. You gave me that, a movie that I hope is never made. You gave me that for fan service, but you couldn't give me the Flashes. It's the Flash.
Well, I mean,
it's literally in the title of the movie.
Well, I mean, they took, there's stuff they took out of it. So, I mean, maybe on the DVD, there's going to be some deleted scenes.
Yeah. So, yeah, but that's what I would do. I would Kingdom Come the whole thing. I would just, you would, when you leave people with a bad taste in their mouth, they're probably not going to eat anything else you serve them. This gives you a full-on feature with Henry Cavill. It gives you that battle with The Rock. It gives us a Supergirl again. It gives us, we can have other characters that are not that are the Flash. But if you read Kingdom Come, you'll see that the Flashes and Green Lanterns are ambiguous. They're it's them, but they're not as much part of the story. It's about the Trinity. It's about the Trinity. And if you have the Trinity in that movie and an event level built up movie, you use those 4 movies to build up. And then now hey, James Gunn, we've got all this together. Here it is. What can you add to this? We know what's on your mind. How can we tie this ramp up into your thing so that when they're done, they get up from Kingdom Come, they can't wait to see your thing. They're not just sitting around waiting for it. They can't wait for it to get here, and they can't wait with excitement. They're not settling anymore. See, the problem with DC films has always been that their fans have had to settle. They couldn't get the A product. They got some other thing. And this would have been an opportunity to where, you'd be settling, but man, you'd be settling for one of the most legendary storylines that they've ever written for comic books. And you get a good non-cameo appearance of these characters because you'd have all your Trinity in there. And then you move on from that. And I would let the writers write. If you want to blow up everybody with the bomb, you want to rip up time with some kind of time, you do the details like that. But the premise of it, why not do this? And James Gunn is a comic book nerd. He knows he's tweeted about Kingdom Come. So Kingdom Come should have come after the Flash. And this would have been when I would introduce the Spectre.
Yeah.
And instead of having, like I said, Norman McRae, I would have Blue Beetle.
Have it be Zolber Dwayne as Blue Beetle, yeah.
Yeah, and I would be, hey, I'm showing you this now because at some point you have to make sure that this reality doesn't happen in the one that you're going back to. And at some point there are going to be junctures that are going to require a change in course of decision making that led us to what you're watching now. And you're going to need to be the one that steps up and says something or does something. I can't tell you exactly what it is now because that's not my role. And because the Blue Beetle is the last thing that you're going to carry over. So now you just made Blue Beetle special. You just made all these movies. At the end of Aquaman, I have the Spectre. I have him with Blue Beetle in scene, showing an older Arthur Curry. I have one where you have Superman is doing the giant scene with the plow that Alex Ross so beautifully drew, where he has this giant farmer plow that's like 2-3 tons, and he's flying and he's plowing. I'd have him showing that. I'd have him showing all these, and then I'd have at the end of Adam, Thy Kingdom Come, and each of those movies will be a wrap up to that event. And that event Why is everyone surprised about this repeated cycle? I'm not surprised, Aztec. I'm disappointed. You always have in the back of your head that things get screwed up, but you always hope for the better.
Well,
I,
and
I
William,
actually I actually brought this up because it says at what it says here at the end. It's in Warner Brothers DNA to repeat the cycle, and that's the problem.
Time to
well,
get
and
some mad scientists. It doesn't have to
William,
be.
William, to what you were saying a minute ago about people having bad taste in their mouths, and you know, to be that guy, you know, with the situation we find ourselves in, because I was thinking about this a little bit today, and I mean, again, one of the things that makes the current situation with DC on film so unique is the fact that how much of it is so traceable, you know, because we have social media and YouTube and the internet and everything. So it's way easier to kind of follow the paper trail on where all this began. And of course, we can trace that to 2017 with JL. But I was thinking about that more today, and really, I think in terms of what you're saying about people having a bad taste in their mouths, I think a lot of that really, if you think about it, comes more out of 2021 with the release of the Snyder Cut. And what I mean by that is, you know, they had JL 2017, you know, that happened. It was a train wreck. You know, then they were having to regroup with the Hamada regime at the time. But you know, you had Aquaman come out; it was a mega hit. You know, Shazam was moderately successful, and you know, you had Joker's not part of your connected universe, but you know, it was a big hit too.
Despite Warner Brothers, it was a big
hit. Exactly, yeah. But and then Birds of Prey, you know, didn't do all that well. But and then of course we got the announcement. But during that period, of course, we had the calls for the Snyder Cut. You know, we had all that going on, but in that interim period, they were. I don't think the strategy would have worked long term, obviously, but they were, you know, relatively stable in terms of what they had going on with Aquaman, with Joker, you know, with Shazam. It's like they had, you know, they had footing they were on. You got a sense that they were delivering on things. You know, it might not have been to what they had initially promised, but we were getting good stuff. Then we got ZSGL come out in 2021, and then we got the Ann Sarnoff article a couple days later. And I feel like that's where, if you look at where we're at now, that's where really I think a lot of the, I guess, war or conflict between the fan base and WB and with their handling of DC, that's where it really, I think, kind of the rubber hit the road on that, because you know, you had just nonstop tweeting about this, you know, from the fan base, the studio just ignoring it or putting out hit pieces on it about.
Well, that didn't help. But here's the thing, though. I'm going to go ahead and extract all Snyder elements from it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and extract all this. I'm going to extract us from it. I'm going to extract us 3%ers from the conversation. So I can make this case without bringing up Zack Snyder, with Zack Snyder's Justice League, without any of that stuff, because whatever was going before, had they disrupted what they were doing before, no matter who was doing it, Zack Snyder, Mickey Mouse, Colonel Sanders, doesn't matter. Whatever they were doing, if you disrupted it, you were going to cause the same upheaval amongst the general audience as you were anyway. Now, the reason why I choose Kingdom Come, because that is a universal storyline that would appeal, that would give a resolution to both of us. That would give a resolution for us 3%ers, and the 97% would be, wow, that's a big movie. I won't ever have to ask, wow, whatever happened to Cavill Superman? I didn't get to, damn, Ben Affleck was a pretty cool Batman. I get to see that here. That question is taken off the table. And what happens when you take that question off the table, you take the holes in credibility with it. I now can trust you a little bit more because I know you gave me an ending. How do I know I'm not going to love Superman Legacy and just for it to make $480 million and some stockholder to panic, and now we're Zazoff retires, goes off into the sunset with his hundreds of millions. I get different stockholders, different chairmen of the board, and now we're in a different direction because the only evidence you've given me is upheaval and rebooting. Once you use the reboot tool, I'm never going to trust you not to use it again. I'm never going to trust you not to use it again.
And for everybody listening, I mean, throw my 2 cents out. It's like Kingdom Come. Yeah, it absolutely is one of the greatest comic book stories of all time. So if you haven't read it, you know, get on that, because and especially with the kind of what was established with, you know, the characters that we had. I mean, that does. I mean, with Cavill Superman, with Affleck's Batman. I mean, you know, you still could do. I mean, you could merge like the plan You can modify the plan, with a Kingdom Come type story where you have like older versions of the characters, and
you can still do it, by the way.
And and this is explicitly intended as a conclusion to this universe.
Now, the reason why I brought it up today is James Gunn is probably working on something like this and probably could do it down the line. The reason why I'm bringing it up today, it would make the movies that are going to suffer because of this decision a lot more integrated. And the $1.2 billion that you're about to drop on these movies that are, for the most part, are going to lose a lot of money. You would have strengthened these movies had you had made Kingdom Come part of the promotion. And while you're on that promotion, you got James Gunn sitting with you, co-piloting with you, and saying, can you adjust this? Can you do this? Because this is going to be important for me. Because you got one of those characters, because this is going to lead directly in. The final scene of Kingdom Come should be Spectre dropping off Blue Beetle back at either the Daily Planet or the Halls of Justice or whatever generic thing that you want to signal. Don't give me any faces yet. I don't need to have it because this movie's going to be would have been made before that. But he's the Spectre drops you back off, and what's going to be the reality going forward, and that's it. You leave it there. We have just given you a through line, a credible, and people are like, no, just do the reboot. No, wrecked runways lead to crashed planes.
As we're seeing right now.
Yeah, you cannot address your future without addressing the now. And I think that would have been fun, dude. And when we get a Kingdom Come movie, if James Gunn gives us that, it's going to be great no matter when. But not only would it have been great now, it would have been great, and it would have really made these movies special. Instead of now, like I said, people ain't going to admit it, but there's a lot of people that are. Why? You're telling me about your new thing while you're throwing your other thing in the trash. By the way, that thing you're throwing in the trash, you want me to buy that. You want me to open up the lid in the trash can and buy that thing you're throwing away. It just doesn't work that way.
I mean, it's pretty much what happened a couple of years ago with Dark Phoenix, which The Flash is a vastly better movie than Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
But again, it was a situation where it's like everybody knew that the X-Men were going to be taking longer than we thought, but they're going to be integrated into the MCU, and Dark Phoenix and New Mutants were, they really were just put out to pasture. Especially with New Mutants. I mean, I remember when theaters shut down, that was actually when they opened back up. That was the first thing I saw theatrically was New Mutants, because that got kicked around like 5 or 6 times.
Which was unfortunate because New Mutants was a good movie.
Yeah, had some good performances in there. Anya Taylor-Joy was great in that movie.
I always thought because I remember, I don't know if I was the only one who thought this, but with the way Logan and with the kids after they bury Wolverine and they're kind of going off on their own, I thought, oh, this is perfect. This is a setup for New Mutants.
Yeah.
So there you go. All
right, I need to bring up a couple of super chats just real quick.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, we have super chats.
We're getting backed up. Yeah.
It's Blad's fault.
So I got Fourth 1000 here with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Fourth. William, you have any promotional tickets for No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence? Can I get those?
We already did the screening for that. Sorry. I did. Sorry.
And then we've got another $5 super chat from Fourth. William, just ask me. I was right about the past 4 movies bombing.
Well, just ask me. Remember, we were both talking about this as soon as Cavill. Once you gave that sign, I was like, "Wow, this is gonna suck."
I think people really, really underestimate how much the Henry coming back and then he's gone 2 months later. I think that was a really significant factor in kind of what we're going through right now.
Yeah, and it signified.
It was a massive one.
Yeah. Not Ezra and whatever he's doing, which you think he's grooming and all that. No, that was something for us on the small screen in our own headspace. But the big thing was this.
I mean, you had that interview that Henry did with Josh Horowitz. I mean, it was this big welcome home party.
I loved that interview. I was so happy.
Oh, I was. It was. I mean, it was the happiest I'd been as a DC fan, and since ZSJL had come out. And
by the way, guys, I'm sorry to break it. The Rock was right.
Yeah.
All you guys that crapped on The Rock and said The Rock's ego this, The Rock's ego that, tell you what, I want the guy flying the $50 million F-16 to be the most conceited punk on the flight line, because I want him to have the most confident in the world. I don't need the weak, bald guy at the helm. I need the guy with the big sack. And The Rock wasn't a producer. He wasn't a film executive on that level. It shouldn't have been him, and that's where your problem was. But The Rock putting Superman front and center, that is what we needed. We needed that now. We needed that then. The Rock was right. Go ahead, man.
Well, I'm just saying, like, look at, I mean, what William's saying about, Kingdom Come. I mean, just look at all this artwork, and the
Yeah.
Alex Ross artwork. I mean, to see this brought to life in live action with Cavill, Affleck, Godot. I mean, how do you turn that down?
If you look at this, and this is going to sound conspiratorial to me because I know this is a 30-year-old book, but that shot right there of Kal-El's face, you can kind of see Henry in it.
No, I agree.
Well, I think if you look at it, and I got to actually, I have a chance. I had a chance to interview Mark Waid about this because I got a chance to interview him when I had a podcast years ago about this, and we talked about how the Alex Ross Superman developed the necessity for the Superman. Even the guy, the corn sweat dude that they're looking at, he looks like
Yeah.
Henry Cavill because they both look like Superman, and they both look like that Alex Ross Superman. And you could say the kind of same things about that prototypical Superman is what Alex Ross captured in this. This dude, I love this series. And you can hand this comic book to anyone. They do not have to be a comic book geek. You can hand a Kingdom Come trade paperback to anyone, and they will get it. They will understand it. They will not need my help. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
why
like
this movie is so important.
Yeah, it's like Watchmen. It's a really good. I mean, you can plug it into like as a finale, to like an ongoing universe. But I mean, it is a very good standalone story about the heroes, retired 20 years later and coming out for one last battle, kind of story.
Have you read the other two parts to Kingdom Come, William?
Yeah, they weren't as good. They weren't bad quality wise. I just didn't like the direction they kind of went in till years later. I appreciated it a little bit more. And then when they tried to integrate some of the elements of Kingdom Come into the normal universe, I had a problem with it because that was one of the coolest things about Kingdom Come. And this is the integrity I would keep if I did a movie. It's within that movie. It is within that. That is it. At the end of Kingdom Come, that is it for those people in that universe, and that is something you sell. That is something you sell. And then I pitched this to some of some of the other people off screen, and they're like, "Well, what about the Snyder people? Will never be out with that." I'm like, I don't care. I'm one of those Snyder people. I think do business.
I think Kingdom Come, it's like that's tailor made for like being part of a Snyder DC universe. I mean, it's I mean, just look at it.
Because we all get confused. The funny thing about it is because we didn't finish the Dark Side arc because they were sloppy and unprofessional in the way they handled themselves with that. Because we didn't get that, we don't realize that wasn't the entirety of what these guys were going to go through. That was just one story arc. That was one adventure that was supposed to end with them defeating Darkseid. If you look at all the movies that have been released all the other movies that you've seen now, that's all after the Darkseid storyline. The Flash, that's all after that. So that's settled. We could settle that in the Elseworlds years down the line when there's different executives. I don't need Justice League 5, 10, 20, 30. I don't need Man of Steel 2. I already got Man of Steel 2. It's BVS, but I don't need Man of Steel 3, 4, and 5. I don't need any of that. You can tell me that somewhere else on a different platform. But for the general audience, Joe Average, Joe Sixpack, not the geek with the Shazam shirt, that walks around with the wrestling belts in public, but the average consumer would eat this up, and it would give them finality, and the new guy coming on would be like, wow, I'm ready to lay down some cash for your next thing because look how beautifully you ended this. This is what I have to look forward to instead of what I have to look forward to now. If what I have to look forward to is an exemplary of what you've given me or haven't given me, HBO Max.
Well, and Williams, something else I kind of wanted to ask, and this is something Film Junkies kind of talked about a bit on some of his streams, and there's speculation about this is that Gal Gadot was recently asked about are you possibly going to be part of Mr. Gunn's DC plans, and she said, I don't have this verbatim, but it was something to the effect of things are being worked out behind the scenes, and when the time is right, people will know. And so the wording of that is kind of interesting, and it's something he brought up, and apparently other people are speculating. And I'm kind of wondering too: is there maybe like a lawsuit in the works with that?
Ooh, I don't know about a lawsuit. I always consider because I always perceive that as maybe somewhere down the line he could use her.
Well, he said, James Gunn when he first came out talking about, became DC head and everything. He said that he had talked to especially after they had let Henry go. He said he had talked to Henry and that he had possible plans for him in the future, just not right now. And that could be what Gal Gadot's talking about there too, and that would actually make sense if he's talking to both of them.
And that answer me this with that. I mean, with the situation with these 4 movies, this might be tantamount to spoilers on Gunn's part, but I mean, if there are plans like, okay, we are going to wrap this up, just maybe not right now. Is there maybe like a more pressing need to kind of be a little bit more forthcoming with that?
Yes. Not only do they need to be more forthcoming coming with it, they needed to do it, because these movies are getting released in that vacuum that you're waiting. While you're working on that, you're spending 1.2 billion to promote and to give me a lot of cool stuff to give away. You've seen what I have to give away. It's beautifully done stuff, but I know it costs money. You're going to do that for Aquaman. You're going to do that for Blue Beetle. So either you were going to go ahead and release these movies, and you should have had something, either been forthcoming with us and let people know that these movies aren't meaningless, or you should have had this as part of those movies. While you were working on that, you should have been. And to be honest with you, I don't need I have more of use of a new Superman in a new universe debuting in a stable universe than I have for it debuting in 2025 or 2026. I don't need Superman Legacy to hit in 2026 or 2025 if it's going to come under the same circumstances that these movies are being released under. I would rather you spend that time wrapping this up with an epic movie and push those movies down the line and have James Gunn part of it than to have you sacrifice these movies, have them not do well, and then weaken the ground that you're trying to stand on for this new universe. I would have rather them given themselves more space for the DCU while they brought the DCEU to a credible climax.
Well, because I see Stella's comment here about not a lawsuit contract negotiations, and
okay.
I mean,
yeah,
maybe. Is there? I mean, is there? I mean, there's obviously stuff that that Gunn and Safran have mapped out that that hasn't been publicly announced. But I mean, is that is that what's going on? Where it's like
it very well could
taken,
be.
They've taken the cast. They've taken the cast aside and said, "Listen, we got our plans, but we're not going to kick you to the curb. We're going to kind of put it on pause for the time being, and we're going to work out the logistics of it so that when the time's right, we can finally kind of spring this." Kingdom Come finale or Dark Side War finale, as the grand finish to this.
I could understand that, but you unfortunately you can't afford to sacrifice 4 movies on the way to that. Not when you came in with 49 billion. When you came in with 49 billion of debt, that would be cool if you had the credibility and people were going to give you the benefit of the doubt. That would be cool. That would be cool if it didn't mean sacrificing 4 movies and further sacrificing your credibility. That would be cool if they had the credibility and the capital to do that. That would be fine. They don't. All right, and now you have a situation where a lot of people are putting good work into these movies, and they're being now. If you were going to do that, then from day one, along with your slate of your stuff that's coming beyond all this, he needed to announce that plan. He needed to communicate that plan months ago, if there is a plan like that. Now, like I'm saying, we may get this. I think James Gunn will eventually do a Kingdom Come. But my whole point of coming into it today was how it could have been done and preserved the credibility and the prestige of the movies that were coming out and made them important, and in turn strengthened his cause. Them doing it down the line is, great. We'll get to see it. But as far as that goes, the damage is done. You know what I mean?
And thank you for the comment there, Stella, because that is helping to kind of put some clarity on what I was asking there about, kind of what Gall's statement there.
Go ahead and hit the chat. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off, Dave.
Oh, you're fine. Anyway, she says here Zach's actors' contracts are probably up, but these are the options that can be exercised. So it could very well, he could be holding them for future. I mean, one of the biggest things that Zach's mentioned is, not Zach, but James has mentioned, is the Elseworlds thing. He's made really big about the Elseworlds thing.
And which the Flash really puts in the forefront.
Right. So this could be very well he's working on something for them in the future, just not at this moment. Now, again, we're kind of in a sticky position with that because, like William said, when's it going to be there? You don't have necessarily 10 years like Marvel did. You
And
don't
you got to ride the
necessarily,
strike.
yeah, you don't necessarily even have 5 years at this point to figure this out. It comes down to what are you willing to wait for,
And how much damage? How much
and how
damage has
much
been
damage
done?
has been done.
And then let me be clear also, because William, you were kind of giving a little shout out there a minute ago, but James Gunn, Peter Safran, if you're watching right now, nobody's saying, I think I'd like to think we're all kind of some of the reasonable people within the DC Snyderverse, however you want to call it, fan community. Nobody here is saying you can't ever make a Superman movie, or you shouldn't ever plot out your own DC universe.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like for me, it's like James Mangold on Swamp Thing after we did with Logan. That's the one I'm looking forward to, big time out of that. But
Oh yes, definitely.
but yeah, I think that's gonna be rad. But what was it? I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, but it goes back to what William is saying about the runway as it is has been wrecked, and we're dealing with crashed planes in real time now, and it's planes that have the potential to take flight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to the future, but it's really tough for me to dive in just knowing what's gone on. All right, should DC go back to dark series because this bright and colorful jokey route ain't working? I think there needs to be a balance. I don't need a full blown comedy. I don't think it should be bereft of humor, but I think if the humor fits the natural tone, then I'm all for it. And thank you for the $5 super chat.
There we go. WBD cannot ignore the success of first Wonder Woman and Aquaman movies, so Gal and Jason can't be ruled out, even if second movies weren't successful.
Yeah, because a lot of franchises have a bad movie. Fast and the Furious has had several.
And they keep making them.
And they're yeah. All right, next one.
Let's see. I think there's going to be more disastrous result. After Flash had a horrible box office, I think Blue Beetle and Aquaman are going to do even worse because of the incompetence.
Blue Beetle to me is an outlier because of a lot of other circumstances, and they didn't spend any money on it. It's really 125 million. They upped it from 90 to 125 million when they augmented it for a big screen. That's not a lot of money.
By the way, when are we going to get the Aquaman and Lost Kingdom trailer?
I'm going to be at Comic-Con. By the way, a very empty Comic-Con, it sounds like. Thank you, studios, for making Comic-Con about comics again. I might be able to move around this year. I'm planning on going for all 4 days and broadcasting from there. And it looks like I'll actually be able to move around because all these studios are not going to be there.
Yeah, that news just came out that it's what was it? Sony, Marvel, Universal, Netflix. You're sitting out the which means I guess we're not going to get the Rebel Moon anything for the Netflix.
You know what? I don't need Comic-Con for that. I got this thing called YouTube.
Yeah,
that we're on right now, because guess what? I don't have to sleep outside of Hall H for 4 or 5 days like a vagabond and get into a room where only 5, 6, 7,000 people can get into. And I'm way in the back. I've been in Hall H before. You know what I can do? I can use this magic wand that I invented today, and I can flip it over to YouTube, and it's a huge screen, guys.
Well, but I was going to ask, it's like, with all those big studios sitting it out, WB and these, they haven't made any official statement on that. It's like, where would you play? I think the odds of that at this point are pretty low. They're going to be attending Comic-Con this year.
I'd say 50-50, but I would if I had to gun to my head, I would say, pun intended, I would say no as well. They need to be there.
Well, because also
here's the thing, though. Here's the problem. What are you going to do? Announce actors that are going to be on strike?
That's the thing I was going to get at, because we have a pending a SAG strike in about 5 days now.
Hey, David Cornsworth is going to be my Superman. He can't be here now because we're on. If the strike is still happening, by Comic-Con, then I don't think DC will be there because, like I said, the whole point would be to get people excited about what's coming up.
William, I'm going to step away for a minute, so
Okay.
I'll be back.
All right, I'm gonna roll down to some of these. Ooh, oh my goodness, there are a lot of you talking in the chat tonight. Sorry to have ignored you for as long as I did. All right. They cannot release Aquaman 2 on Max because there are theatrical contractual obligations. They could do it with Blue Beetle because Blue Beetle was designed and contracted to be on HBO Max. But at 125 million, I think they're going to be fine with that one. I'm not going. Listen, we're going to promote it, but I had made the decision that, hey, you know what? This is going to be on HBO Max first when they create it. I'm like, that's where I'll watch it, and that's where I plan on watching it. I just didn't see anything in the trailers that said, wow, I have to go, take some time out of my week to go see this on. You guys who are going to see it, have fun. You guys that I'm going to send to see it, you have even more fun.
Yeah, I think that I think the biggest benefit that that has with Blue Beetle being a more obscure character is Sholo, with his popularity from Cobra Kai. So yeah, I think that should help it. But it's like, of the two coming up, I feel like Aquaman does probably have the best foundation.
Yeah, and one that's got MILF Magnet in it too. RJ said, I don't know how far if RJ's still even there. Man, the second week drop off is insane. I really thought the movie was going to do better. It's a shame. I honestly don't know what explains this, because it's not like they didn't push it on. No, it's nothing about the movie. That's the thing. You'll hear a lot of people throw some things around, and some of those will have some factor, but none of those was the dominant factor. If you eliminate, if you'd have had a Kingdom Come movie in place and post credit scenes in place, none of this stuff would have mattered. None of this stuff would have mattered as much.
I mean, Ezra got into some bar fights. I mean, it's like he's not the first celebrity that's happened to.
Yeah,
and they're not the first celebrity that's happened to.
The general public is not obligated to care about the right or wrong of a character's life. All right, there have been plenty of celebrities. I brought them up ad nauseum that have done far worse. Deshaun Watson.
I was a big Van Damme fan as a kid. I mean, he drove his career to the ground with how much coke he was snorting.
Who is this?
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh yeah, and Robert Downey Jr. And people were like, well, he was held accountable. I'm like, that's not up to you. And that's what the fans realize, that this guy, whoever these people are, whatever they do, they're going to get in front of a judge, in front of a jury, and unless they're on that judge and jury, they ain't going to care about that stuff. But like I said, you pull the rug out from people. That's one of the bigger things around here.
I'm sorry, Will. I'm just looking at that image you got up right now. It's like, again, imagine Henry Cavill in that Kingdom Come suit.
Oh, dude, Henry Cavill in that Kingdom Come suit. Ben Affleck in that robot suit that he's got in there, and Wonder Woman. Those are the three you focus on. You wouldn't even have to deal with Ezra Miller if you didn't want to, because remember, that Flash in there is not part of the story, and he's like a composite Flash anyway. So, and the Green Lantern that's in there, it's Hal Jordan. You know what? Hey, you know who you get for Hal Jordan? Just to give this a nice bow, you get what's his face. You get
Ryan Reynolds again.
Ryan Reynolds.
Well, Zach had mentioned that was his his intention for like a Hal Jordan.
And you say goodbye. You say goodbye, and you give people that warm feeling when they leave that theater that I didn't get all that I wanted with these characters, but I got enough. I got an ending. That goes a long way, especially if you're someone that is selling something else in that same atmosphere. If you're DC and you want me to stick with you, make me feel good about doing it. Make it feel worth it. People's time, no one wants to be told that their time has been wasted.
Well, and that's what I was getting at earlier when I talked about the immediate aftermath of the release of CSJL was, the old administration. It's almost like they went out of their way to make it a chore to be a DC fan.
Yeah, too hard. Yeah, and I agree with this. Especially, and I think there's a sinister strategy to this, and I'm going to put on my foil hat. I think that they had a POV and streaming date for the Flash before they even did this. I think that a lot of the stuff that they're giving us to promote, a lot of the money that they spent on there, they're using a different set of money, because the money that they're going to lose on the Flash is already gone, because that was any money that they had outstanding for the Flash is like people they owed, people they need to pay. That was part of debt that was accrued. because they had to accrue that debt. That debt's already been put somewhere on a loss sheet. So all this money that they're spending it on. To me, my opinion, for Hat William, they are spending it so that when it hits streaming, it adds more value to their streaming services. It adds more power to their PVOD, and it gives the movie such a high profile that when they air it on TNT, when they air it on TBS, they air the commercials on CNN, that they get that ad revenue, and that ad revenue is massive. I don't think the average fan understands just how much these things are important when it comes to ad revenue. That's why syndication is so important, because of ad revenue. So I think that these movies in general, and that's why they're so close together, that they're going to get them in there. Hey, we put it on the big screen. Now there's big screen movies coming to our streaming service. There's that prestige, So,
well, to go off of that, I actually wrote an article just for on Screen Rant, for just before The Flash came out. It was going off of some of the pre-release talk, and apparently they have decided yet. They haven't announced an official date, but what reporting I was writing about was that yes, they apparently they have slated sometime in fall of this year. It's supposed to debut on Max. Now
no, it's sooner than that.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be sooner too. And yes, I'm very much also with you on the name change. I think is a real downgrade.
It's like, what in the hell, dude? But yeah,
right, William, I'm back. I got the chat now. So
all right, cool. So yeah, that's where I think because what's happening. And a lot of these movies have other movies that they want to put on those screens in the theater. So they're moving out their own movies. They're basically cannibalizing their own movies. So
could you guys imagine this scene in live action right here?
Yeah.
You see how that Flash looks? You can't tell who that Flash is.
Well, and I'd love to be Ezra, but like the Kingdom Come Superman suit. I mean, imagine that with like the chainmail, Man of Steel kind of look.
I would take the trunks under the circle. This is the only circumstances where the trunks would be acceptable to me. Only way. But even still, even if you didn't want to do that,
and we just got Hawkman and Black Adam. So there you go, right there.
That's what I mean. Everything that you have, you already have it. So you're not wasting anything. You have Black Adam, who I will use as Magog, because you don't need to build him up. I have Shazam already. I have Wonder Woman. I've already had the Green Lantern. Give me Ryan Reynolds. That Flash that's in Kingdom Come, he doesn't talk. He does exactly what you see. He's there. That's all he needs to be is there. You got a Power Girl there. Oh, I would love for you to introduce James Gunn. If you did Kingdom Come right now under these circumstances, you introduced Power Girl and you had her in your universe. That's great. Sasha Calle going up against Shazam in that final battle.
Yeah.
That final battle that takes place at the end of Kingdom Come. Yeah. But instead of that, because Magog and Superman are Black Adam, and that's the battle. The Rock gets what if you check off so many boxes with this, I mean, and with one fell swoop, you get the Black Adam and Cavill battle, you get the Supergirl Shazam battle, you get to see a bunch of characters that you're only going to see the one time, but it's just like in Kingdom Come. You only saw certain versions of these characters one time. You already got your Hawkman, you already got your Justice Society characters already there. You just funnel them into this end story. And like I said, you need to introduce the Spectre anyway. And that Spectre, if you use them again, that needs to be the same Spectre that's in James Gunn's DCU. You're just ramping it up.
I think you can even do it like, give it the runtime of ZSJL. Give it that 4-hour epic. It's just.
Well, they won't do that because that's going to be. You have to get that done in the special version. Give me a 2-hour 40. You could do this in 245. Yeah, you could do this in 320. An epic movie like this, if you build it up and market it as a epic event movie in a Super Bowl level type movie, to where this is it. This is the end. When you walk out of that theater, you're taking a deep breath and like, there's nothing left. I can sit and imagine a whole bunch of other things I could want. But it's like you gave me so much food that I can't eat anymore. I got up from the table and I left half of it there because I'm full. And we haven't had that feeling with DC. If Gunn approached Top Gun director, were you going to read it? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Fourth 1,000, another $5 super chat. Thank you, Fourth. If Gunn approached the Top Gun director to direct Superman or any other non-cartoony movie director, that would perk more interest in Gunn directing. I disagree, but okay.
Well, I mean, as William has said, Gunn, him directing Superman Legacy. I mean, and him being the co-CEO of the studio and writing the movie. It's like, I mean, this is kind of like he has to kind of take ownership of the first bout.
You better direct that movie. You better direct that. I don't even see why that was up for. People were asking me, "Do you think Gunn's going to direct?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I was saying that
direct it.
Before. This is your ass. This is the most important part of your ass. So yeah, you don't hand your ass, the most important part, to someone else. This is the fulcrum. So I agree with him 100% being
But yeah, like what you've said about the strike, I do agree. It's like I think we're most likely looking at a delay on and of course, if you delay Legacy, then you got to delay everything that comes after that. So, and then of course you've got this quagmire, and now it's like because of circumstance, these 4 movies not doing the business they should, especially again, The Flash deserves to be doing so much better. So that's where I came with the question I posed a minute ago. Yeah. Does this force their hand in some way to be like, okay, we got to pull back the curtain a little bit more on what we have coming up?
If they got something special, tell us. That's been the worst thing about DC. And that has been a consistent thing no matter who's running it. You need to communicate. You need to keep us engaged. Like I said months and months and months ago, every Wednesday, DC should have a 1-hour show about everything DC. And part of that 1 hour needs to be 15 minutes of James Gunn talking and getting us excited. Not spoiling it for us, but telling us enough of what we need to know to keep us engaged. Jim Lee needs to be sitting right next to him to tell us what's going on with the paper medium and how that's going to tie into everything. Those two guys should be sitting with a host or somebody, and it needs to be on YouTube, and that needs to be streamed on Twitter, Twitch, everywhere where eyeballs can see it or ears can hear it. That's where it needs to go. Every Wednesday, new comic book day, new information day, and all this gets get. You drop me hints, you tell me things. Instead of going back and forth on Twitter, because Twitter is subjective. Me and you talking face-to-face is not subjective. Have some questions out there that somebody filters through and asks them the most prevalent questions so that when he's talking, if the horse is talking, bullshit doesn't seep in. And that's the problem right now is where we don't have the right information, clowns fill in the blanks for us. And now we have a circus. So if he's got something special lined up, you need to start giving us hints and letting us know, keep us engaged. Because right now, DC is the easiest thing to disengage from. You need to keep us going. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, next one.
Before we move on. Of the previous regime, I understand James and Peter could have done better, but they were still trying to clean up the mess from the previous regime with their stupid decisions.
That is true, but you know what? Don't take the captain's chair if you're not ready to steer the ship. Don't take the job. If you're going to take the job, you had enough time to think about that. You had enough time to think about the pros and cons. You made the decision to take the job. And if you weren't up for it, then don't take the job. I think they're up for it. They just made some bad decisions.
Yeah. Right. So how could James Gunn connect the Kingdom Come storyline to Superman Legacy that does not include the Spectre like you explained, William?
That doesn't include the Spectre? Use the Flash. Use the Flash. Use at the end of after Flash is done, because since we would have already seen the Flash, we know what he's doing with the whole worlds colliding thing. And you see the Flash darting through after he sees the bomb drop, and at the end of Kingdom Come, where everything is just destroyed. The Flash comes zooming through and basically moves that, but he's not able to, save that universe. You could pretty much have him wipe that universe away, or that universe gets merged as the bomb is blowing. That universe gets merged into the other universes that you saw happening in the Flash. So you could do that if you weren't going to use it.
By the way, one comment I would like to kind of drop with what we just heard about how horrendous the previous administration was with community camp plans, which, I mean, I don't think there's any debate left to be had about that. But without going into spoilers on the Flash, there's kind of an explanation involving like how parallel realities and timelines and things like that work. That is, awesome. Again, awesome. It's really clever. It involves spaghetti, and it reminded me of when the guys who directed the Batgirl movie that got canceled. They mentioned at the time it was something to the effect of, this movie takes place in a spaghetti of multiverses, which, now having seen The Flash, that puts Batgirl in so much better context, which, again, the Hamada regime utterly failed to do.
Yeah, they failed to communicate. And like I said, I would use a Spectre because the Spectre would be the one person that you could take over and use the other. But if you didn't want to use a Spectre, you could use a Flash, and the Flash is basically, he's destroyed. He stops at that universe. He looks at it, and he sees it's being destroyed, and he's going to say, "I can't save it." Superman walks up to him and said, "This universe, we need, this universe is done. It's had its course. Let it die." And he tells Barry to go because they just dropped an atomic bomb and wiped out like a whole civilization. So, Superman would basically say, what's better, trying to rebuild from this destruction, or for this world to have never existed and a better one to be in its place. And then the Flash just leaves and lets it go away.
The other thing too that would also work if you were going to do a Kingdom Come type story, as a conclusion to this universe, is that because BBS, I mean, obviously that is partially taking cues from The Dark Knight Returns, and the thing about Kingdom Come is that it's all in some respects it's almost like a Dark Knight Returns type story for Superman. So you could there is a kind of symmetry with that, with Superman's place in that, and putting that as kind of a parallel to where we saw Batman introduced in BBS.
Yeah, I mean, it could all work. It's all there. And if they're thinking the same thing I'm thinking, then right now, I understand wanting to keep things under wraps, but dude, there's a lot of damage, and a lot of people's some really good movies are going to take it right in the balls if we don't communicate.
Their feet are definitely a lot more to the fire now, I think, for to sort of come out and say, okay, we've really got to be forthright in a way that our predecessors failed to do.
Yeah. All right. Next one.
Realistically, can the Kingdom Come Superman storyline actually work with James Gunn saying Superman is going to be a little bit younger? It's not okay. We're not using James Gunn's Superman in the Kingdom Come storyline. We're talking about Henry Cavill's Superman being the Superman for Kingdom Come.
Yeah, and ending Cavill's run. That's how you end Cavill's run. Now, if you decide, go ahead.
Yeah, because all the characters in Kingdom Come, it's one of those. Again, it's a little bit reminiscent of Watchmen in some aspects, because it's taking place, like 10, 15 years after kind of a cataclysmic event. So you're dealing with older versions of all these characters.
Yeah. Give a little bit of gray to Cavill, and like I said, you give him the end run, and that's something you can look back on. Right now, people, and when it comes to these characters, a lot of people just don't have anything fondly or memorable to look back on when it comes to these characters. Give them something to, and I think you'll go a long way towards your credibility going forward. All right, next one.
William Dade, Brad, I'm still blown away how we haven't gotten a Green Lantern Corps movie yet. As a Green Lantern fan, it's sad how we haven't gotten anything from Green Lantern. True.
Well, we almost had that Green Lantern scene at the end of ZSJL, but we know what happened there.
Yeah, I know Guns. I think he has it planned, but that's like 2027, 20. Oh,
he's doing that buddy cop show with Hal and Jon Stewart.
Yeah, it's called Lanterns. It's supposed to be like True Detective with space cops.
Which actually sounds good, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could get on board for that.
Okay, Anthony. People didn't show up for Birds of Prey. Why the fuck would they? Wonder Woman 84. Why the fuck would they? And the Suicide Squad. Why the fuck would they? Why would they? Why are they being blamed for not showing up to what, for the most part, is substitute stuff that they had to settle for because that regime didn't want to touch the characters that they connected with? Why? By the way, hold on. Why is it? It was dumb. What they making those movies was dumb. That's what was dumb. But how can you blame the customer when you were giving him a C product? That's real money that they have to spend. Why would I go? Birds of Prey was a horrible movie. The Suicide Squad was good, but once again, it's a movie about throwaway characters with mainly no recognizable characters in it. That's not what you promised them when you gave them Man of Steel and didn't follow up, and when you didn't follow up with all the main players. If you would have given me all these movies after having taken care of your mainline characters, then you could probably blame the fans for not showing up. But how can you blame the fans for not showing up? Some of these movies were awful. They were concepts. You know, Shazam and Shazam 1 shouldn't have even been made without a plan for Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman firmly in place for a 5 or 6 year program. Those movies shouldn't be made. So I'm going to blame the fan for showing up for movies, 2 of which on your list should have never even been made. I'm going to blame the fans for that. How about I blame the people who made the movies and made the decisions? And that's not proof that the universe, I mean, I'm saying go ahead and end it now at Kingdom Come, but this here is not proof that the universe needed to die. That's just proof that it was mismanaged. But those movies weren't good enough for people to show up for.
And I'll also add to that, because mentioning Wonder Woman 84 there, which, say what you will about the movie itself, but, that was, yeah, they were doing the day and day thing, but also it's like when, as far as the box office, that was right when theaters were opening back up. So it definitely has like the COVID thing to fall back on.
Well, and people use the COVID excuse, but Dune was released and made money. Kong versus Godzilla was released deeper into the pandemic at a point where we had no vaccines yet. That movie was released in March of 2021. We did not have vaccines yet. Suicide Squad was released in August of that year. I had my two vaccine shots by then. And people were coming to the movie theaters. So, I understand what you're saying on a macro level, Anthony, but on a micro level, these movies didn't warrant people showing up to them. Not only were they not good movies in most cases, but they were in lieu of what we were supposed to be, what we were led to believe we were getting. You gave me some of these awful movies while you weren't giving me another Superman movie. You were giving me Shazam while you weren't giving me Batman. You were giving me Black Adam while you weren't giving me Superman. You were giving me the Birds of Prey while you weren't giving me another Justice League movie. I mean, you can only, the fans can only take so much there. I can't blame them for that, not showing up for those movies. Thank you for I'm not mad at you, Anthony, but I've heard this before. And when you look at what they were giving them, how can you blame the fans for not showing up to some of this?
Hey, William, I'm going to have to step out for a little while. I got something I need to take care of, so I'm going to tell you guys good night just in case I don't make it back.
Okie dokie.
All right, see you, Thad.
All right, man. So let's.
Good seeing you, man. William, I'll explain later. I just got to take care of something.
Okay. I'm going to try to. A lot of people don't like what film did I go too back far? I don't know which ones you're talking about. Now I'm going to jump in the chat. I'm a little bit behind.
Shazam and the Flash there.
Well, like I said, I mean, you put a good. I like both movies, but you put those movies in a situation to where they weren't going to succeed. You know what I mean? You just can't. Let's see. I have no plan on seeing any of the theaters. I mean, it just doesn't intrigue me. The character Blue Beetle as a comic book collector never. I only would even read Blue Beetle because he was in later versions of the Justice League. I'm not saying it's going to be a bad movie. I just right now I have no interest. I have as much interest to see Blue Beetle in the theaters as I do Barbie, and I have zero. I hate to say that, but. There you go. All right. So, let's see. How you doing, Azteca? I'm just jumping over a little bit. I didn't realize this is probably one of the busier chat rooms we had in quite a while. All right, guess who? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I saw that comment earlier, and I thought, there's no way this can be real.
I can't get past the name. Like it's a twit user. Guess who farted? This guy. When I was executive at AT&T from 2017 2022, AT&T had to dump DC and WB because of the losses of justice. Yep. Oh, that's. Let's go down a little bit more. Wow, holy mackerel. While I'm not trying to be a shill for Zack Snyder, he's one of my favorite directors. He's up there with Denis Villeneuve as far as that goes. Villeneuve, sorry, I'm not French. Yeah, they do, and I liked some of those movies. But yeah, when you match them up together, they do look like amateurs. Oh my goodness. Nah, it's a and here's the thing though, and when I say reboots don't work, I mean ones like disruptive reboots, like the Nolan the Batman reboot after Nolan. That wasn't really. I don't consider that as a bad one because you got the full story. Spider-Man, when you rebooted Spider-Man, it was after I got 3 movies out of Tobey Maguire. I got my fill of most of these characters before there was another interpretation of them. Though. With these characters, with DC, we have not. Dude, we had to borrow and steal just to get what we got. We had to put on campaigns. We were made to look like the assholes because we wanted something that they started us off on. So I am, yeah. Anthony Beltre, I miss hearing your voice say trash all the time. Warner Brothers, The Flash gross estimated 4 million on Friday, 4 million in locations. Estimated that gross stands at 76 million. I gotta look. I haven't looked at Box Office Mojo yet because I knew.
Yeah, I think I go back to. I feel like this news of again of the relaunch or reboot or whatever you want to call it. It's like I feel like that would be my primary factor I would attribute to all this.
Otherwise, like I said, Shazam had the same fate. If these movies ended up having similar fates, then you can't really take something in particular from the Flash. You have to use the common denominator, which is the fact that once you announce this, because guess what? Black Adam, Black Adam's biggest thing against it was no one knew who Black Adam was. But if you just stuck the stigma of a reboot after on that movie, it would have made even less. What Anthony's saying here, Mission Impossible is having a lot of free screenings. I know because I'm hosting 2 of them. The movie's gonna make money. It's because that you get the flat. Well, here's the thing though. The Flash was good.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually taking a friend to go see it tomorrow. And so I've been playing it up very, very heavily myself.
Now, the difference between the Flash and Mission Impossible, you have a brand that has been handled faithfully since 1996. He's been putting these movies out. He has not disappointed you. He's kept the frequency of giving you these movies on a very, very, every 3 years you got one, if not 2, you have one. For the most part, or not, but not frequently. I mean, he's coming back to do one. And he has not given you a a level movie. It's been Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt this entire time.
Tom Cruise's brand is that he literally risks his life with each one of these for the stunt work he's doing.
At age 61 in July, he's a trusted brand. So the difference, Anthony, between the Flash, DC is not a trusted brand. Doesn't matter how good the movie is. That's the bad part. Mission Impossible is a trusted brand and it's a good movie. If DC had handled their IPs right, it wouldn't matter. People were going to go see them, but because the mishandling of things, they have a trust factor. So the comparison, the free screenings, I don't think were the factor, because if you add up every free screening, like I said, maybe 2-3 million. If Warner Brothers missed out on 2 or 3 million, like I said, they'd be popping champagne. They're missing out on hundreds of millions. So those free screenings, what ended up happening though is that people couldn't interpret the kind of information that they were getting from these screenings. They couldn't use their own brains to figure out that maybe I might want to go see this for myself instead of seeing some clown's iPhone. Like I said, that he ain't even supposed to have. I don't aim and can't aim and get me a good picture because he's not even supposed to have the phone.
I mean, I can't even tell you how many things I saw all over Twitter. In the last 4 days or 5 days before the Flash came out, there were screenshots of things. I mean, it's I think I did manage to avoid spoilers pretty well, but still, that was all over the place.
Even if you had an issue with the CGI, I damn sure ain't gonna make that determination off of your damn phone video. The heck? I'd just rather pay the money and go see for myself. Yeah, unfortunately, but you know what? That the drop off for DBS. Every time I hear that, oh, it dropped 69%. Oh my goodness, it dropped 69%. It still made 871 million. I saw BBS the minute it was released. I actually saw it before it was released, but I saw BBS. Everybody I knew saw BBS that weekend. We didn't, we didn't.
And it's like whenever I hear that, I say it's like I see your BBS second week drop, and I raise you 6 years and counting of total chaos with DC.
Exactly. And guess what? You know that BBS 69% drop in that awful underachieving box office, they would give both of their testicles to have that kind of box office right now. They would give everything down below to have the box office. And if you adjust those dollars for when BBS was released, they might give you a couple toes.
$1 billion.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at total combined, and I think Ohio Dave or somebody put it the first two movies that from the DC Batman versus
that was Ohio Dave,
and Man of Steel, and you looked at the total combined of all the movies that have been released since, but yet those movies were failures. Listen, let's go back to failure, because failure was better than you knew it was. But holy mackerel! All right, so if I'm missing some of your guys' stuff, I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm just trying to get to as many comments that cover a broad swath, because we got a lot coming in. Monkey Jeebus, DC went Marvel phase 4 and then phase 2. I wonder what William thinks of that. Listen, I'll answer that because I think that'll answer a couple other questions in there. I have been a comic book collector pretty much all my life. I'm 48 years old right now. I've been collecting since I was 6. So I've been collecting for them 42 years. Owned the store my entire adult life. I was 18 when I got my business license. I've been around comic books. I understand the DNA that gives rise to what DC is. I understand the DNA and the history that gives rise to what Marvel is. They have always had to be approached differently. No matter, even if you had a common writer that was writing for both, he or she knew that they had to write those characters in a way that was consistent with DC. And when they were writing for Marvel, they had to write those characters for Marvel in a way that was consistent to what Marvel. It doesn't matter how many decades pass. That DNA stays there. That's why when I hear the comparisons between Marvel and DC, it's a bonehead comparison that's easy to make, because guess what? They're both comic books. Look, I get a DC one there's a Marvel one, a lot of similarities. But if you're spending lots of money on these things and you're taking the time to tell the story, take the time to tell the story right. Marvel did what was right for their atmosphere and the characters that the stories that they were telling. DC needed to do the same thing. That's why whenever I see somebody say, well, they should do what Marvel did, they're not Marvel. I don't want Marvel doing what DC did. There is a history and a dynamic behind both of these companies that is important to every facet of these characters. And if you try to blend them, it doesn't work. And that's what DC Films did. They tried to Marvelize a DC product. And it's like putting two chemicals together that don't go together. You're going to have an explosion and it's going to get messy. All right. Rhea, how you doing? What are the other endings that were screened but never cinema released? Do we know? Yeah, they I think Variety published them. Go ahead and explain which one, because you memorized them, Brad. The 3 endings for the
Yeah, there was one that was I mean, it's the last, and spoiler warning for anybody who hasn't seen The Flash. It's when Barry's his father's exonerated at the end, and there was one scene that was going to involve him seeing a Supergirl and Keaton Batman, outside the courthouse. Then that was the original ending. Then the second one, it was going to involve, they were going to be there, but also so were Cavill and Godot were also going to be part of that.
100%.
And I should add also, yeah, exactly. There's also you talk out there that there was going to be an additional scene involving, there was going to be a flip of the BBS Flash scene where it was going to be Affleck Batman. He was going to be communicating to Barry. It's like, you'll find us. You have to help us, because it's implying he's gotten switched with Keaton somehow. And then there's the third ending, which is the Clooney ending, which is the one that's out right now.
Wherein lies the problem, because see, they had enough control to intervene and change those endings because they weren't consistent with what they were doing going forward. To me, that shouldn't have been the priority. The priority should have been the now. Fix the now. Fix the runway before you put that Airbus on there and crash it. So there you go. Yes, William does agree, Monkey. They flooded DC with D-listers instead of big guns. Once again, I don't mind the D-listers, but everybody always makes a comparison. Well, Guardians of the Galaxy, no one knew who they were. They didn't have to. Marvel was in a place where they had so much credibility and they had their machine running that you could release Guardians of the Galaxy, which are basically support characters in support of the MCU, and have the MCU support them because of what the MCU was already. You can't do that with DC. DC put their Z-listers in lieu of their A-listers, not in support and in conjunction and alongside of their A-listers, in lieu instead of their A-listers. And that's a problem. That's why we're at where we're at now, and partly. All right. That was saved. Oh, no, we're not bringing up that turkey again. God damn it. Let's see.
One thing I wanted to ask William, because again, obviously there's a lot of the epicenter of all this right now with WBD, and DC is centered on the Flash right now, but also, of course, we had the news of that they're selling off assets to different streamers, and there's this they've implemented kind of a new AI system for greenlighting things, and then there was the TCM thing that Spielberg and a bunch of other directors intervened in, and eventually Abdi and DeLuca kind of got put in charge of managing that. And I was kind of wondering, I'm with a lot of this news, I'm getting the impression I don't think Zaslav is going to be hanging around there long term.
Oh, I think he's 63. He's got hundreds of millions of dollars. He may retire. If it were me, I'd be already on the yacht already. But he may, I can't tell when people have that much money and they don't have anything. The merger was his big thing. He did it. I don't know how long he's going to stay along. But I do think that was part of his plan when he bought it. I think one of the things that AT&T was trying to do is they were trying to spin these things off. They couldn't do it. And that's why Zaslav got that. So I don't take that as much of a shock to the system as a lot. It's just because it's happening now with all this other stuff. It just looks bad. But that part, I think he probably had the shareholders read in. Monkey Jeebus, William thinks Marvel is going to do great. No, Marvel has done great as far as great business. Content-wise, Marvel, man, how many times have you heard me say out of all the movies that they released, just under half of them were a waste of my time? So I'm not a Marvel shill at all. I think they've done some great stuff, but let's not get carried away here.
Well, and of course, what you're talking about with the proper placement of that's where you have something like Captain Marvel, which I thought was just about as bland as white rice. But I mean, they have that as the lead into Endgame, and it's $1 billion hit. I mean, it's no coincidence that's the outcome for it.
Yeah. I do agree with this. Flash should have had every Flash in there. And and I understand Grant might want to do it, but I'm like, dude, you work for us, you do. But oh well, a lot of missed opportunities here. All right, guys, I'm really trying to. I did not realize how many people we had here tonight. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to get through as much because we still got some topics. Gunn had nothing to do. He had a little bit to do. He reshaped the ending of the Flash post-credit. And like I said, the movies were already done, but you could have engineered a lot of these post-credit scenes to get what you wanted out of them. Like I said, Kingdome Come. I just explained how you did a Kingdome Come. I do believe that James Gunn can do good work. I just hope that he just hasn't wrapped himself into a situation to where it's like aiming a plane towards the ground and then waiting to the last minute to pull up. I don't know if that kind of momentum can be overcome. And like I said, they undermined everything that they're going to be doing by this. The reboot word is like, dude, it's like castor oil. You just don't want to take it. It's going to be gross. It's going to make you throw up. All right, let's see.
I second that motion.
I would have cleaned house before if it had been the previous regime. I listen, I'm not a big Saffron fan. I don't know him personally, obviously. I have nothing personal against him, but I see his name on a lot of things that have been part of the problem. And so, but with Gunn, I can take a combination with him. Gunn, I wouldn't fire James Gunn. And the fire James Gunn hashtag, I think that's silly. I think James Gunn has proven that he can tell a story. I blame them. I blame Zaslav for racing towards what Gunn promised you before you fixed what you had. And I said, and this is not just, and I'm not saying this in response to the Flash's box office. You can go back on any stream for the past, all the way since October, since this has been announced, since before this has been announced. You can go back. I have been consistent, and I've said that phrase forever. You can go back to a year when I said I first coined that phrase. Wrecked runways lead to crashed planes. I've said this for the entire time, that whoever you bring into this new situation, if you bring them into a crap situation, you're going to hurt their chances. It's not going to matter whether Superman Legacy could be the Goodfellas of superhero movies. It's not going to matter if people don't give it a chance. And you can see that now with movies being released that are good movies that no one's going to give a chance because of the situation. So I wouldn't clean. I would sit everybody down and say, this is what I need. Here's your mission. Pam Abdi, DeLuca, I need you to take care of this part of DC. I need you, James Gunn, and Peter Safran, to sit right with them, and I need them to push their cards towards you as they're taking care of this. And I need you to use what they're getting ready for, and I need you to add what you can add to make it so that this is as seamless as possible, so that I don't drop $1.2 billion on advertising, so that I don't lose millions on top of millions on movies that are really good. I need you to make everything that we have relevant and valuable to my stockholders. Now, I'm going to get up from this table and I'm going to leave you guys in this office, and I'm going to leave you to your talents. That's what should have happened. It shouldn't have been, oh, I got James Gunn, let's just throw everything out and go with what he's saying. It shouldn't have been an absolute. It shouldn't have been an either or. It should have been all. And you're seeing that right now. And like I said, I'm not being reactionary. I watch all my old streams, just, and I sound like Cookie Monster because I hate the way my voice sounds, but I listen to my old stream. I can clearly hear myself saying the same thing. I can clearly hear and see myself on panels with Enosh and everybody else dogging me in the chat saying that we just should do this, that, and we did that. And now look where we're at. So here we go. I didn't need Guardians 3 to trust James Gunn, though. I trust the Suicide Squad, even though it lost some money, that was I was okay with that there with him. See, Guardians, even though that was his movie, it's told within the structure of the MCU. One of the cool things about DC being unstructured and in chaos is that he had full control of that movie. I know what I'm getting. I wasn't getting a Kevin Feige directed movie with him. Basically, I was getting a James Gunn movie. And another thing is what he did in the MCU is, to me, business wise, isn't relevant. If I give a chef a job and I hire him from Wolfgang Puck's, but I hire him to my crappy restaurant, and I don't have the kind of steak I don't have the meat, I don't have the cutting tools, I don't have the spices, I don't have the staff, I don't have anything. My company's a mess. But I bought him over from a best company. Doesn't matter how great he is. I've now brought him into a situation to where he's got to do a lot just to get the business up to snuff, and he may not be able to do that because he's not a corporate CEO. He's not a chairman of the board. See, James Gunn came from a situation where all those guys who were supposed to do their jobs above him did their jobs and put him in a very favorable situation. That's not the situation here with DC. Whether I trust James Gunn is irrelevant. Doesn't mean he's going to be able to pull off what he pulled off for Marvel because of entirely different circumstances. So, but personally, I do trust him, but not because of that. Let's see. Ooh. All right, question. I think there's going to be a more disastrous. I can't talk. Disastrous result after the Flash and horrible box office. I think Blue Beetle and Aquaman are going to do even worse because they're in confidence. And I'm not rooting for that because, like I said, that hurts us all. That hurts us fans. David Zaslav decided, you know what? I got a 280-foot yacht and 300 million minimum in the bank. I done what I needed to do. I built Discovery to where it needed to be. I merged it with Warner Brothers. I made the merger. I made here. Give me my golden parachute. I'm out of here. So if that happens and Superman Legacy pulls in 480 million, like I said, I need somebody there with a spine to say, you know what, we got a good movie here. We're going to stick with this. And I don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't know who's going to be around in 3 years.
Well, and again, also you can't discount the fact that we're going through this writer's strike, and again, very likely the SAG strike. So, I mean, it's going to turn the whole industry upside down, and I mean, that's absolutely going to impact Gunn's plans.
Yeah. Yeah, me and Keith. I thank you for introducing to me that show. I love talking with those guys. I love talking with Keith. We went deep into a couple mainly about Trek, but it was a good conversation. If you guys get a chance, pop culture minefield. I when I can make it on there, I try to be on there Friday. Friday's been pretty packed, but yeah, we always have a good spirited conversation with everybody on there. It's a good group of people. All right. Yeah, I like I said, it's gonna be. I don't get any pleasure out of these movies not doing well either, though.
And this is where I ask the question. It's like, does this force their hand, in some respect, to play their hand? Whatever is being the kind of the MacGuffin, or the trump card, or whatever you want to call it, that hasn't been revealed yet.
Yeah. What are we saying no to? What are we saying no to, Fleshy? Me versus James. No, James Gunn's an immensely talented guy, and like I said, I hold those two accountable for some of the immediate decisions that they made, but I don't blame them for the situation that they inherited. I just wish they would have handled it better. All right, let's see. Only director for the last 20 years to get full control over their films at Warner Brothers for DC related films was Christopher Nolan. Everyone else not. Yeah, because he worked it into his contract. Everybody does think they're entertaining. I mean, I get a little bit more because we send them to the movies and we sit there and we ask them questions, but we're talking about millions of people that go to the movies. But there are people whose job it is inside these corporations. Their job is to understand the general audience, and these guys haven't done it.
And I that was something I wanted to ask you about, William. And this might creep a bit into NDA territory. So if it does, you just feel free to let me know. But as someone like yourself, you deal with setting up screens and things like that, communicating directly with the studios. What kind of have you sensed any kind of what the temperature maybe is internally in terms of what the results have been thus far with the DC this year, and what kind of their feelings are on the landscape right now? If that's,
the people that I work with think they had a hit on their hands. They think they had a hit on their hands. They were, I knew some people who were hoping against hope that, but a lot of people were working in one department while you have James Gunn and Peter Safran working in another. So whatever they do can kind of be undermined by what happens in a different department. So I think that's a lot of the feeling there is it's more of they're out of his control. Okay, what are you guys talking about here? Why is Rhea being overruled? Okay, like I said, now James, you'd have to go with James Gunn. Okay, I'm totally behind. I'm not behind. I'm not now. I'm out of Now I'm out of sequence, so I'm going to try to speed to the end here. Let's see what I can do. Somebody's giving the evil eyes or super chat that I missed. If you're referring to the Kingdom, listen. Not if it's not I can't. If I'm running a film company, as much as I agree with a lot of Snyder fans, I can't run my company based on just us. I have to put something out there that will be universally understood, and that can work now. Somewhere down the line, under different whatever or different circumstances, if you want to finish the Dark Side arc, that's fine. But right now, in order to make it easier to draw revenue from what we already have out there, the Kingdom Come resolution would be the easiest and probably best universally accepted thing that we would have at the moment.
Because I think you could even kind of merge elements of both of them together. It's like I think like you could have aspects of Snyder's initial plan kind of given like a Kingdom Come spin to it.
Once again, guys, I understand there are Snyder fans that wouldn't be 100%. Me personally, I would prefer the other thing. But if I'm talking dollars and cents here, I can't steer my giant aircraft carrier based on what a certain segment of fans, significant as they are, the general audience is where I'm going to make my money. I'm not dismissing us, and I'm doing what I can to integrate what we know into the situation, but I also have to think about an entire studio, an entire slate of movies that are out there right now, an entire slate of movies that are coming. I have to think about more than just us Snyder fans if I'm running an entire company. I mean, and if I was running the company, rest assured that, whenever I get an opening to finish telling that story, I will. But in order to augment these movies so that they are not just out there on islands, this to be the best course forward. And them boycotting movies, that's unfortunate. But you have to think logistically and realistically and buy yourself time for the outcome you want. It's a give and take relationship. All this is going to be negotiation. So let's see. Super chat. I think we got that super chat already, right? Oh, wow. I'm really behind. Yeah, everybody hit the like button for Enosh, the returning king. Yes. That's the whole point. That's the whole point is that, and you market it that way. You don't just make the movie. You market it that way. Like, this is it. Just like you knew James Bond, that was Roger Craig. That was Daniel Craig's last Bond movie. You market it that way. Everybody involved knows that this is it.
It's like Michael Jackson say, "This is it." Yeah.
Yeah. This is it. This is the entire storyline, and I would have intertwined those remaining movies so that you knew by the time you got to Kingdom Come, this is it. So all those movies mean something now because they're leading into that one finale, that big kick-ass fight. If you read Kingdom Come, you know what I'm talking about. You get it all out of your system, and that is it. The purpose of my Kingdom Come and my my imaginary universe and my imaginary corner office would be to put an end to the DCU and prepare you for the DCU.
And by the way, to kind of go off that, William, because I remember reading one thing. Hiram Garcia, of course, is the Rock's business partner. He had actually also expressed some interest in doing a Kingdom Come movie. So that might have also been part of their plan too, as far as the Black Adam Superman fight is to have Black Adam in the Magog role, as you've suggested.
Okay, Anthony, and by the way, thank you for inputting and being part of the conversation. You're comparing some of the movies that they didn't show up to what I just explained to you. They didn't show up for bologna. I'm not giving them bologna. I'm giving them prime rib. All right. If I put on the menu, if my mom is cooking dinner and she says, "Hey son, I'm making grilled cheese tonight," guess where William is eating? McDonald's. But if mom says, "I'm making prime rib tonight," my ass is over there. helping with the plates. It's a different animal you're selling them. They, first of all, some of those movies were bad, and B, they weren't marketed towards anything. You gave them nothing to show up for. Here, I'm literally giving you something to show up for each of these movies, including Blue Beetle, which, like I said, might struggle to, so nobody knows who it is. But if I'm telling you that these movies are leading up to this big finish, and that big finish opens the door for this thing, it's all in how you market it. They didn't market those movies for anything. They just threw them out there. They just literally threw them out there. And the good ones suffered, and the bad ones were just bad. So you can't use that as a determining factor on whether they would show up. I mean, those same people that sat home and didn't go to Birds of Prey, now I'm giving them Kingdom Come. I think I'm gonna think that I'm probably gonna pique their interest a little bit more, with something like that. And the general audience gravitates towards the Trinity, not Polka Dot Man, not Huntress. That's baloney. I'm giving you steak. So thank you for the comment, though. Oh, man, I can't wait for Forbidden Doors tomorrow. We'll get to that. Forbidden Doors tomorrow. Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay. A sequel to one of the best matches that I've seen in the last quarter century. Wrestle Kingdom number 4, or Wrestle Kingdom, was it 19? Wrestle Kingdom 19 on January 4th. Oh, my goodness. I'm taking a day off from everything to go see that. We're going to watch that here at the center. All right. I mean, I would try to get it done in one movie, but once again, I think the priority should be getting as much money out of what you've already spent with these movies that are already out here. And if I needed to do that in 3-part of Kingdom Come, I'm all for it. But I don't need to box myself in and say we need a Superman Legacy by 2025, 2026. No, you don't do those movies any service by putting them in an environment where you've got all this wrecked stuff that you're just shoving down people's throats. So, yeah, we'll get to that, but we got to fix this. And James Gunn should be part of the fixing of this. Go ahead.
I was also going to say, because Kingdom Come, the main story, is 4 books. So I was even thinking like you could do like 4, individual increments.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't think that would have bombed. First of all, the main reason why I don't think it would bomb is because you're building up to something that has Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman in it, not cameos, in it. They are, when you read Kingdom Come, they are the heart of the movie. So you're not just giving me a 2-second cameo and saying, go see it, go spend $15 to go see the movie for a 5-second cameo. No, they're in the movie and you're building up to something with the Trinity in it. So I don't think that would fail. Who can tell? Who can tell? I think you would have I think you'd have a better chance with that than we did with this. What do we have to lose? These movies are bombing.
Yeah, I think when you put the JL front and center, I mean, even the theatrical Justice League did like 650, something like that. So, as bad as that movie is.
MJ, personally, I don't have confidence in James Gunn connecting games, TV shows. It's a big, ambitious thing. I wish him all the luck. I really want to start having fun with this stuff again. I'm not rooting against him. I'm just understanding that. And like I said, we're seeing a situation unfold to where I don't think the momentum is going to be there if we continue this way. Everybody's saying Kingdom Come with bombs. Guys, I disagree, guys. Kingdom Come, I think Kingdom Come will do well.
I think the moment you announce anything that has, the Cavill, Affleck, Godot Trinity in it, and just the 3 of them on its own, I mean, I think that instantly is. I mean, you're talking about fireworks off of that, but then you bring in the entire JL and the wider, DC heroic pantheon. I mean, it's like, nah, I think that's easy money.
I don't think so, dude. I mean, you guys are thinking about it. Nah. And Flashpoint, yes, Flashpoint was a bad idea. But once again, we're talking, you cannot compare poorly executed things that failed to something that if you had the chance to do it, you could execute it properly. You guys are giving me examples of the movies that bombed. The Flash bombed for things that had nothing to do with the Flash because things that happened before it were poorly executed. I'm talking about something that would not be poorly executed. So it's
and I'm really hoping that Gunn and everybody involved, I'm really hoping they're understanding that's the circumstances around the Flash's performance and all that. I really hope that it's not going to be we did, it just wasn't good, so we can't do. I really hope they understand the circumstances are really the culprit behind this.
I think they are, and that's why people are like, "Oh, we don't think Muschietti's going to do that." I'm saying it right now. Muschietti's still going to do Brave and Bold, and there's no reason for him not to. Oh wow, my goodness! How old are some of these? Oh my god! Oh my goodness! I'm an hour behind. Ugh. Okay, yeah. Oh, geez. Sorry, guys. Hi, CGH. Oh my goodness. The chat is a war zone. Hey, as long as we're being respectful to each other, we can have disagreements. I just don't want to see any crazy stuff going on. But people don't feel betrayed if they gave the Trinity. I mean, you in Kingdom Come, you can give them other people, but the Trinity is what makes Kingdom Come work. And if you look at the dollars, when the Trinity was up in front and center, they made money. They made more money than the stuff that you didn't put them in.
I mean, the Trinity, they're your front line.
Okay, I probably won't get a chance to get to some of my topics. Wow, thank you guys, by the way, for the contributions, not only financially to the channel, to the Enosh, but conversation wise. You guys' conversation is why I'm running over, but I don't mind it. William Powell, WB assets are being sold to Sony, even WB games, because they're front runner. Yeah, I heard that. And then we have the whole Netflix thing that people.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to mention that because they're that was part of the discussion this week with WBD, and the whole idea of the whole sell the Snyderverse to Netflix kind of thing that's floated around, which I've been kind of agnostic on that, where I thought it's okay, let's I mean, what's the harm in making the request? I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to say no. We're in the same spot we are right now. And, I mean, I'll admit, some of this week that idea kind of crossed my mind a bit. And I thought, maybe there's something more to that than there might have been a couple of months ago. But again, I'm not the business expert on it, but you kind of shared some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and like I said before, I mean, listen, you're always going to have people that take things in extreme directions. But when we talked about this when it first came up, I explained the business dynamics of why they would do something like this. It's instant. It's a transaction. And when you're talking about a limited license and a non-exclusive, that means that the owner, you're still the owner of the IPs. Someone else is just paying to have it done. And everybody shot that down. And the conversation got really ugly. Now, I didn't agree with everything that some of the people that the hashtag sell Zack Snyder's Justice League to Netflix said, or everything that they did in support of that. But from a business aspect, the conversation got nasty and unprofessional because the people who were trying to shoot it down didn't have any real content to bring to the conversation. That was my problem with it. I knew when I discussed it back then that the likelihood, and I opened up my conversation, that the likelihood of this happening is probably nil, simply because it's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of people just don't have the willpower to do it. But it could be done. The nuts and bolts for something like that could be done. And now here we are, and for the same exact reasons that I said it could be done then. Now, I'm not saying that Netflix is going to, acquire Zack Snyder's Justice League or anything like that, but the business reasons for them to do so, if they wanted to, and if both sides wanted to, are there. The whole competing with yourself thing, that was stupid. I never thought that was something that should have been brought into the conversation. If you're making the money, you're not competing with yourself. Or why would they have James Gunn do this and then have somebody do another one like that? Because there's an audience for it, and they're in business to make money. People. I could put a Batman on any platform you want. If it's good, people are going to watch it. I can have 3 Batman. I can have one on TV. I can have one on Netflix, and I can have one on the screen. Now, if there's 3 shitty Batman, yeah, they're going to suck, and it's a bad idea. But if there's 3 good Batman, people ain't going to stop at one. I've watched everything Batman that has come out in my life. You think I'm just going to not watch something on the big screen because somebody has a different version of that character on Netflix? No. And now we have this situation here. Let me go ahead and bring it up. Because apparently we will be going past midnight. At least me personally. Let's see. Netflix and talks to licensee. Did StreamYard fix this? And I'm using consequence of sound because it gave me the best, the most complete article. All right. So Insecure and some of your favorite HBO original series may be coming to Netflix, as first reported by Deadline. The streaming is in negotiations with Warner Brothers Discovery to license some of these older titles to HBO library. Now, precursor, whenever they're opening the door to this type of relationship, if Insecure ever came out with new stuff, the door is already open and primed for them to take on new, license those IPs as well if this agreement does well. All right, so should the deal go through, it would serve as the latest example of change in the digital content distribution strategy under Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav, who has demonstrated a willingness to forego exclusivity and licensed content in order to boost profits. There we go. One of the HBO shows that would be included in the arrangement is the Issa Rae comedy Insecure, which ran for 5 seasons from 2016 to 2021. The Netflix license would be non-exclusive, meaning that any of the HBO series included would still be available on WBD streaming service Max. So that's actually even a better deal than we will be talking about, because not only would they be paying to make it, you get it on your streaming service. And people are like, well, why would Netflix do that? Because they need viewers. And obviously Netflix is on board with this negotiation. So, I mean, it's just crazy. Hold on. So, yeah. So let's read this a little bit more. I'm not going to go into that. The bones of the argument is pretty much what we were talking about. So let's see. All right. Earlier this year, Roku and Tubi snapped up 2,000 hours of Warner Brothers Discovery series, including Westworld, The Nevers, Raised by Wolves, F-Boy Island, Legendary, Finding Magic Mike, Head of the Class, and The Time Traveler's Life, many of which had been yanked from what was then known as HBO Max. All right. So now they're not paying, royalties, and they're handing that off to somebody else. Though HBO content has largely been walled off during the streaming wars, the networks has shown willingness to license older shows in the past. More than a decade ago, HBO syndicated edited versions of Sex and the City to TBS. Well, they kind of the same company. And The Sopranos to A&E and Curb Your Enthusiasm to TV Guide channel. In 2014, Amazon Prime Video inked an exclusive deal for the series The Sopranos, Boardwalk Empire, and True Blood. These are big ones. It's worth noting that Amazon wasn't producing its own original content at the time. So, yeah, that's an interesting situation. And like I said, do not come at me saying that I'm saying that Justice League is being sold to Netflix. All I'm saying is that all the reasons that most people gave to me were absolute bullshit. Almost every reason that everybody told me that something like that couldn't happen, and I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't think it should happen because I think it should stay in-house. I think Warner Brothers should keep, if it's good enough that someone else wants to buy, you should be keeping it. But given that being said, every reason that everybody gave me that, something like that couldn't happen was absolute piled to my eyebrows horseshit. So there you go. What do you think about that, Brad?
I mean, pretty much what I said a minute ago. I initially saw the kind of the whole concept of it was I was kind of on the sidelines thinking, I mean, yeah, that if you what is the harm in making that endeavor or making that request, because the worst that'll happen is they'll say no. And obviously there's all kinds of nuts and bolts that would go into something like that, and it's not like an overnight type thing. And with what you just laid out there, I mean, it's that's pretty much the position I just laid out. Is like, that's kind of where I stand on it. But I think now, I think that needle might have just moved slightly on that. But I do also, I'm with you on the idea of it'd be better, if it's got that kind of value to hand off to somebody else, why not just if you want something done right, do it yourself.
Yeah, make it an Elseworlds. Anthony Manzano, I'm making a not so shocking prediction. I think what's going to happen is James is going to bring back Gal, the Wonder Woman show within Paradise Lost, and she's going to be playing Diana's mother. Maybe. I don't know if people will go for that though, but it'd be hilarious. Let's see. All right, hold on. Let's see. I was watching a video recently with the scientist breaking down the Flash's power, and he said that Flash powers are not super speed; he just slows down the
Was
time.
That Neil deGrasse? Was that Neil deGrasse Tyson? Because he's always got something. He's always got something to say on his superpowers and things like that.
He's always shooting down our make believe. Use Dr. Manhattan. WB owns him. He uses the comics, and you can bring Zach back. I love. That's my favorite Zack Snyder movie, by the way.
Well, yeah, but we all know how he feels about Doomsday Clock, so you'd have to, kind of.
Well, Doomsday Clock. That's because they were going to try to use Doomsday Clock to reset the universe again.
To do another Flashpoint.
Yeah, the same guy who had already disrupted the universe with a reboot was about to use that. That's what I was.
Well, we had New 52, we had Rebirth, we had Convergence, we had. Or I think I'm getting the order mixed up there, but yeah, it's kind of like what you're saying. It's like you've retooled it so many times now.
Yeah. It's like, ugh. Hey man, I mean, makeup. They can put her in makeup. They can make if they use her for my Kingdom Come. Granted, she's pretty much immortal. She doesn't age much. In Kingdom Come, her and Shazam are pretty much the same age because
she's 5,000 years old. Every guy's the older guy or younger guy.
Yeah, I like that part. Let's see what we got here. I could see that too, and I wouldn't mind that if, like I said, right now we're just doing so much damage to those possibilities even happening. Yeah, Gal Gadot's like 38 now. Is it necessary to pause and rebuild though? Content comes going forward and subject being integrated as discretion without the multiverse legacy content included. I think so. I think that's that's my point entirely, is that you could do this. Oh yeah. Morticia. Dude, she's excellent in Wednesday, by the way.
I haven't seen Wednesday yet. I've heard pretty good things about it, so I need to give that a look.
Hey man, you can make anybody look older. Come on now. Steve Rogers is not 80 in Captain, in Avengers Endgame. They made him look like he's 80 though. All right. No, they're gonna. I don't know when Paradise Lost is coming out, but like I said, if you're not gonna get another Wonder Woman movie, give me Kingdom Come with her in it. If you're not gonna give me another Superman movie, fine, I understand. Just send Henry Cavill out on a really kick-ass note. If I'm not gonna get another Aquaman movie, then and you're gonna use him for something else, cool. You just want to give these characters a nice going away as you're going to your new thing, because how you treat your IPs is how people are going to accept the next iteration of your IPs.
And that's where I was kind of coming at when I mentioned Gall's quote a little bit ago about, and that made me wonder. It's like, is there some kind of side plan for the the Snyderverse characters to wrap their story up that's not been revealed yet?
Yeah, I just whatever it is. How old was this comment? Because I think I already addressed the premise of it's 11:06. Wow, it's an hour ago. Totally different companies, totally different situations. One power does James Gunn introduce the new Superman? That will be fine, but that's not going to help all the movies that are going to get stomped in the process. Ooh, holy mackerel. Yes, Forbidden Door will be lit. Oh, I'm going to be there for that. I disagreed with, and I actually put in a comment in that situation. I don't ever agree when you can make Marvel and DC comparisons up to a certain point, but then they diverge, and you have to respect that divergence. And I don't think a lot of these articles and these other YouTubers do that.
Yeah, and I don't think you're weighing you're not putting the circumstances of proper context to with the kind of the outline he put.
Yeah. I don't know necessarily know which one will be the biggest. I know which one's probably going to be the best, and that's Omega and Osprey. Let's see, William and Brad. All right, William and Brad, and this, to this day, people still think that that was a failure because it didn't make $1 billion. Yeah, that $1 billion standard ruined a lot of things for DC.
Well, and we're still talking about it 7 years later, so I'd say the longevity, is kind of the you talk about succeeding in the long run. I think BVS and Man of Steel and that whole the whole crop of the Snyderverse films, I think that's very much stood the test of time and will continue to.
Okay. I will. Let's go ahead and bring that up right now, real quick. I love Secret Invasion. I'm not like one of the lucky people who got both 2 episodes. Damn it! I have to watch them one at a time. I guess I'm a nobody. I love the first episode. I understand there was some issue with the AI generated opening. I didn't even waste 2 cents on that. I'm sorry if that offends people. I'm not, when I'm watching that show, that wasn't top of mind for me. I was watching it for the story. I think I may have skipped the intro. Just getting right into the show. That's how much important. The show is great.
Yeah. And actually, William, because I haven't seen it yet. Not yet. I need to go ahead and jump off myself here in a second here. So, but I haven't seen Secret Invasion yet myself. So might as well.
Okay, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I will see you later, man.
All right, see you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, man.
Take care.
Thank you. And you can find Brad at Screen Rant. So just make sure you frequent him. I love the intrigue. I love the spy feel. It reminded me of reading Nick Fury versus S.H.I.E.L.D. back in 1989, with the life model decoys. It's almost the same premise. You couldn't trust anybody. I liked it. Some of the elements in the story, I wish they could have done a little bit better, but I only got to see 1 episode. I loved it. Hear a lot of people crap on it, but I super enjoyed this show. I'm looking forward to the next episode. I wish I could have gotten no, they do, Plushie. They do have a different DNA. You have to understand the origins of the characters and where they come from and eras that they came from, and it sticks with them to this day. When you're talking about DC, you're talking about characters that were created during open warfare on the streets, with gang warfare, the mob warfare that was going on, open violence. World War II was happening. You had what was happening to Jewish people overseas, and most of the creators of that era, if you follow their histories and their lineage, were Jewish immigrants or first generation Jewish Americans. So they wrote about the story of the immigrant. They wrote about the different era that launched the gods and monsters type of situation that you see with DC is different than the post-war generation. If you look at a lot of the original Marvel Comics characters that came about, it was what we call an era of innocence, which would be before Vietnam, before the Kennedy assassination. A lot of these characters came about in the early 1961, 1962, 1963. And at the end of 1963, and then during the civil rights era, when it started to become more on the surface, those creators of Marvel got a little bit more risky with some of the things. You started seeing characters like Black Panther introduced. You started seeing content and tone of their story changing because of where those characters were being created and what they were evolving into. DC's characters are always going to come from a different place than Marvel's are. There are some comparisons. Yes, you have superhero element, secret identities, things like that. There are some basic stuff, but when it comes to the heart of your story, they are 2 dynamically different things. They have been for the 8 decades that they've all been around. And you can ask anybody, you look at some of the interviews between Frank Miller, Klaus Janson, people like that have written stories for both of them, how their approach changes when it comes to writing a Marvel comic versus how their approach goes when they're writing a DC comic. And it's different. It's different because the standard is different. Nothing wrong with either one, but you have to understand the genesis of these characters and where they came up to and all their stories, especially when you're retelling them on movies and things like that, they all come from the eras that they originated in, and they're two drastically different eras. All in your head, World Network. Who needs to see a movie about a continuance in a franchise that trashes the end with Clooney? Yeah. Oh, spoiler alert. I will be practicing gun control with my movie money. Wow. I can't really fight you on that. No. Ja Rule. Cookie Monster. That's what I sound like. I don't know if Constantine 2 is still happening, dude. I wouldn't be surprised one way or another. Okay, I've lost all my wing people, guys, so I'm trying to get through as much of these chats as possible and be respectful at the same time. Let's see. I'm trying to talk more than DC, but that's where all my questions are going to. All right, would simultaneously DC and WB and Netflix lead to brand confusion if the two stories aren't narratively related? Not necessarily. I mean, nobody got confused with the Flash that was on. I mean, granted, nobody watched it, but nobody got confused with the characters that were on CW while they were being launched in movies. So I think in many cases you have each streaming service or platform is going to know what their audience wants, and they're going to cater those characters to what their audience is. Like, were you to do a Netflix thing, it's not going to be the same thing that's on HBO Max. It's going to fit with the narrative and what those people writing that story for that company are going to do. Looks like SAG-AFTRA is close to a contract deal at the moment. Uh-oh. That's going to leave WGA out in the cold. Oh, that sucks. Did the reboots work for DC Comics? The standard actors were great continuity. The DC reboots for comics were like heroin. They spiked and then they went down and crashed and did a lot of damage. Just by virtue of the fact that Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay are wrestling on this, and plus you have Okada and Daniel Bryan. Those two matches. I can't recall anything on last year. I can't even remember anything. I think Okada went against James J. White, but that match wasn't as good as the potential for these two matches. The two matches alone are dream card matches. Okada and Daniel Bryan is a match that a lot of people have been waiting for a long time and never got it. Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega, like I said, it was one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life, and I've watched a lot of wrestling. All right, we are at the end of the live questions. Yeah, I remember when Green Lantern bombed at the theater, but you know what? Who knows if we had somebody running the shows that didn't make knee-jerk reaction to, you swing at the apple again. You don't always have to uproot everything. But all right, guys. I've tried to answer as many questions as I have, but I lost my co-pilot who usually organize the chats for me. Let's see. Marvel will do great. I think they'll still listen. Their movies make money, even the ones that don't do as well as they want them to do. Their movies still make money. Walrus Shelp, yeah, that's what I sound like. Oh yeah, Kim. Yeah, I. You know what? We're gonna have to discuss support. That is his avatar is very disturbing. I agree, Jeebus. All right. Yeah, but in this current climate of movie, not movie, music, it's kind of tough, man. I don't, like I said before, I think AT&T would have done it, but he didn't have any buyers. All right, guys. I am going to get the hell out of here. Hopefully I've done your questions justice. And like I said, thank you guys for everybody. I mean, we had a lot of people in here tonight, more than I'm used to having. When it's just about us hosting it. So thank you guys for all the questions and all the comments. Even if we didn't agree, thank you for that's what a conversation is. Sometimes I need to hear. I want to hear your input on these things. So I don't think I ran into anybody in the comments that I don't regret bringing their question up tonight. So thank you guys for being the most important part of this whole experience and this whole conversation. Thank you for giving, for the most part, keeping everything civil, and so we could have a good, genuine discourse and talk about these things. So I'm just making sure that I covered everything on my thumbnail. Let's make sure. Yep, talked about everything. Hit up Forbidden Door. I cannot wait. Talked about Secret Invasion. I'm looking forward to that. Talked about the Netflix thing with Warner Brothers, and we talked about Kingdome Come. That was pretty much the spine of the night. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna go eat. Yeah, I did get Sister Kim's today, and it is a burger, but it's not a big burger, so I didn't feel like bragging tonight. So, all right, let's make sure that I didn't miss anybody. Yes, I sound like the Cookie Monster. Thank you guys for agreeing that I sound like the Cookie Monster, but I do. Just for Vegas residents. I have tickets for Indiana Jones and I have tickets for Mission Impossible. We're just for here in Vegas. They don't do Fandango ones as much anymore as they used to, but if they ever do, I'll let you guys know. Up. Here's State. Oh, okay. He got rid of himself. Yeah, Sister Kim's calling. Any parting words, State, or anything you want to get off your mind? Because I know you had to miss a chunk of the show.
Hey, stick around for a second afterwards. I need to talk to you.
Okay. That sounds deep. All right, guys, that's it. I have shepherded you in from what was June 24th into what is now Sunday, June 25th, Forbidden Door Day. So have a safe rest of your weekend, and I will see you when we see you.